astronauts will become the first. Axiom astronauts will become the first to the International Space Station. Crew to the International Space Station. This is the first of 4 missions SpaceX will launch. SpaceX will launch for Axiom Space. Also marks SpaceX's 6th human spaceflight mission overall, and our 5th human spaceflight mission to the orbiting laboratory.
Today's mission is the culmination of years of efforts by teams at Axiom Space, private citizens around the world to partake in meaningful science, research, and STEAM-related activities in low Earth orbit. We believe that commercial efforts in low Earth orbit should build on the foundation that NASA has laid, while expanding the volume and type of research and manufacturing capabilities for missions just like today's open the door for new countries around the world to pursue and participate in the benefits of human spaceflight. And for Axiom Space, each of our private astronaut missions are critical steps in the development of our Axiom Station, the world's first private space station, the world's first private space station, currently under construction.
Right now, Axiom astronauts Michael Lopez Alegria, Eytan Stibbe, and Mark Pathy are suiting up inside SpaceX's Falcon Support Building, preparing to lift off from historic launch complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This crew will be spending 8 days living and working on board the space station and before returning to Earth and splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean.
And over the course of their 10-day journey, the wide range of experiments, including several experimental people, including several terminal people, respond to a microgravity environment, respond to a microgravity environment, will be invaluable to further human exploration of space, and hopefully exploration of space, inspire countless others to follow in their footsteps.
The crew flying on today's mission includes members representing Spain, Canada, Israel, and the United States. Each has a story all their own. Each has a story all their own. 3 new names will be added to the list of astronauts.
Right, so let's take a look at our crew. Right, so let's take a look at our crew. Commanded by retired NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, was born in Madrid, Spain, Spanish American, and has also called Mission Viejo, California, as well as Boston, Massachusetts home, as well as Boston, Massachusetts home. Is a U.S. Navy captain and has flown 3 times aboard the space shuttle and flown 3 times aboard the space shuttle and he's conducted 10 spacewalks in his career. He's conducted 10 spacewalks in his career, accumulating 67 hours of 40 minutes total, both of which are NASA records. Both of which are NASA records. In 2021, he was inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame. He was inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame. MLA or just LA. Known by many as if you're a person who loves acronyms, here's a new one for you. We will refer to commander of this mission as MLA. We will refer to commander of this mission as MLA over the course of our webcast.
Super qualified for his role as commander. Super qualified for his role. Also, the pilot for AX1 is Larry Connor from Dayton, Ohio. Larry is an entrepreneur, nonprofit activist investor, nonprofit activist investor. Aerobatic flying competitions and summited both Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Rainier. Through AX1, he will become the first private pilot to reach the ISS. He will also become the first human to reach both the deepest ocean depths and enter the bounds of outer space within 1 year. Larry has been actively involved with the Mayo. All right, so just some good notes there from our countdown team. As I was saying, Larry has been actively involved with the Mayo Clinic, has been actively involved with the Mayo Clinic for many years, and the Cleveland Clinic for many years, helping to understand the effects of aging. This mission will add a new dimension to several of these studies.
And serving as Mission Specialist 1, Mission Specialist will become the second Israeli ever to fly to space. In many ways, today's mission is a return to flight for the nation of Israel after the Columbia tragedy in 2003. Eytan served for more than 4 decades as a fighter pilot in the Israeli Air Force, where he received the Distinguished Aviator Medal, where he received the Distinguished Aviator Medal, investor and philanthropist. He is an impact investor and philanthropist. In collaboration with the Remote Foundation, the Israel Space Agency, and the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Education, Stibbe will fly to the ISS under the Rakia banner and the maxim, "There is no dream beyond reach." During his time on the ISS, Stibbe will facilitate scientific experiments, educational outreach, and even artistic activities.
Mark Pathy is an entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist, as well as mission specialist number 2 on this AX1 mission. Pathy is currently the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of Montreal-based Maverick, a privately owned investment and financing company he founded that focuses on innovation and social impact. As a strong believer in the importance of philanthropy, Pathy is a member of the boards and executive committees of the Montreal Children's Hospital Foundation, Dans LaRue, and the Pathy Family Foundation. Through the AX-1 mission, Pathy will become Canada's second private astronaut and the 12th Canadian to go to space.
So as the crew finishes suiting up inside the Falcon support building, we are moments away from seeing them walk out the same doors that the Inspiration 4 crew inaugurated on their mission. But before they do, it's worth noting that today's mission holds a lot of excitement for groups around the world. So first up, cheering on mission specialist Mark Pathy are the many doctors and family of the Montreal Children's Hospital.
And from Dayton, Ohio, the students of Dayton Early College Academy are following the journey of pilot Larry Connor.
I love seeing those kids get excited. And then all the way across the Atlantic from our partners in Madrid, Spain, teams at Motor and Sport Institute are gathering together to celebrate the launch of Commander MLA's 5th flight to space.
And continuing east, our good friends in Tel Aviv's Rakia Mission Control are actively engaged, monitoring the mission and cheering on Eytan Stibbe.
To me, this is what really sets this mission apart. This is what humanizes this mission, seeing everybody that this crew's got to interact with and everything this means to these people here on Earth. It really shows that, this is how the dots are connected between what's going on up there and what's going on down here.
Hearing about the kinds of research and outreach that each member has chosen to focus on was particularly interesting to me. They don't have a lot of time up there at all. To focus on aspects like art really gives, on such a large scale, is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, as you can imagine, it's been a pretty busy morning already for the Axiom 1 crew. They had a wake-up call at about T-minus 8 hours and 40 minutes to launch, followed by their first medical checks of the day, and then a shared meal with their families. At around T-minus 4 hours and 21 minutes, crew was formally handed off to SpaceX at the shuttle landing facility parking lot.
At T-minus 3 hours and 50 minutes, the crew arrived at the suit-up room located in the Falcon support building, which is just basically right behind this camera view that you see there. Also around then, they had their pre-launch briefing, including weather information, launch details, and we gave them their tablets that they get to bring with them onto flight, which brings us to the current efforts. At T-minus 3 hours and 25 minutes, we will, the crew began suiting up, and once that process is complete, they will exit the Falcon support building and get into their Teslas. We will have 2 astronauts in each of the Teslas, led by a support vehicle. It's a short drive up to the launch pad, and once they arrive, the crew will ascend the fixed service structure that you see there in an elevator up to the 255-foot level. The crew will then take the stairs up the last 10 feet, where they will stop and make one final phone call before walking down the crew access arm to the White Room. The White Room is their last stop before climbing into the spacecraft, a process known as crew ingress. During ingress, the SpaceX team will run a series of checks to ensure the suits, seats, and vehicle interactions are all functioning properly.
Right, and after all the vehicle and crew checkouts are completed, the SpaceX closeout team will then close Dragon's side hatch and depart the pad. At about T-minus 40 minutes from launch, the crew access arm will then retract away, followed by the arming of the launch escape system. And once that arm is retracted and the escape system is armed, propellant loading on Falcon 9 will begin. At T-minus 5 minutes from launch, Dragon will be configured for what we call terminal count, and this is when Dragon's onboard computers take control of the spacecraft.
And finally, at T0, Dragon and Falcon 9 will lift off from pad 39A. Roughly 12 minutes after liftoff, Dragon will separate from Falcon 9's second stage and spend the next 24 hours making its way to the International Space Station.
Good morning. I'm John Innsbrucker, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're currently at T-minus 3 hours, 12 minutes, and everything looks good for an on-time launch later today. Now, as Kate mentioned, the crew received their weather briefing just after T-minus 4 hours. As you can see from the view here, blue skies around Kennedy Space Center, pad 39A. Probability of weather violations is down to just 10%. Mostly we're just looking at some wind. We've also checked the ascent corridor in case of a launch escape is needed by Dragon. The sea state conditions are acceptable there. And even in the emergency deorbit locations, everything is acceptable. So the weather's looking good. Now at pad 39A, the Falcon 9 is powered up. The engine checkouts were performed overnight, and pressurization of the gas storage tanks on the vehicle is completed about T-minus 6 hours. Now, T-minus 2 hours, Falcon will begin its final checks for launch, including a communication check with the crew, and propellant loading will begin at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, as with all of our launches to the International Space Station, we have an instantaneous launch window at 11:17 a.m. Eastern, or 15 hours, 17 minutes Universal Time. If for whatever reason we weren't able to launch today, our next opportunity will be just under 24 hours later on the 9th of April.
That puts us 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
Thanks, John. So we are just under 3 hours and almost 10 minutes before crew is expected until launch, and we're expecting the crew to walk out in just a few minutes from the Falcon support building. John, as we wait for that, let's talk about any new traditions or celebrations for Axiom leading up to launch.
Yeah, of course, Kate. So as you know, and as you can imagine, this has been a pretty big milestone that many at Axiom Space have been working towards for years. So we wanted to find a moment to highlight all that effort and mark a new phase of this journey that we're on together. So about 2 weeks ago, the Axiom family gathered together along with a crew and created a new tradition. And to mark the end of preparation of training phases and signify the first steps towards the operations phases, we held a first step to space ceremony at Axiom headquarters in Houston. Here's a quick highlight of that moment.
We're really excited to welcome you for the first ever crew send-off.
Are you all excited to be here? We really are excited. I am thrilled. Today is a moment of celebration.
You come work each day because you're doing something that makes a difference in the history of humanity. That's what you're all about. You're making a giant impact to human spaceflight.
This company is about to change the way the world thinks of human spaceflight. And you guys cannot imagine the impact that all of you are having really on history.
It's ultimately the people at the front lines who make the difference. Do not underestimate your impact or your value.
Thank you really for the warm welcome coming from the other side of the world. I think this is a positive vibe, and hopefully that everyone will enjoy this effort.
It was really amazing how everybody stepped up. It's really about changing the world and about making the world a better place.
It's the beginning. We're about to have our missions, we're going to have our space station, and this is the beginning. And if that doesn't give you a little bit of chills, then you're probably in the wrong job.
Go AX1! Yeah. Woo!
So around that same time, we scanned the bottom of the right shoe of each of the crew's flight suit and created what we're calling the Stepping to Space tradition. The crew will sign this finished plaque once they return from their mission. So you can see there, that's the plaque with their shoes imprinted, and it's been milled out. It's got the mission patch on it. Crew's gonna sign that when they come back.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, so we're in Hawthorne, California, kind of close to Hollywood. Seeing that kind of reminds me of the area in front of the Chinese theater where movie stars get to put their handprints and footprints in. I like that one better. Yeah. That one's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Space one.
Exactly. It's a pretty unique space one. A little cleaner maybe too.
That's super cool. So we're hearing that we're just a couple minutes away from being able to see the crew for the first time today. They are currently suiting up inside the Falcon Support Building, or FSB. That's basically the hangar close by to the launch pad, and the team is in there with the closeout team, excuse me, not the closeout team, the suit.
Countdown, we're at T-minus 3 hours, 7 minutes. Crew suit donning is complete.
All right.
We are ahead of schedule.
even better news, ahead of schedule. Now, you might hear check-ins with the team indicating what kind of margin that we have with our countdown, basically, and proceeding up to launch. We do build in margins so that if we are running a little bit behind or a little bit ahead, it's all good, basically.
Yeah, and a lot of those calls that you hear, those are clear steps in a procedure. As you can imagine, this day is very heavily synchronized. Everybody's got a job to do, and we follow procedures. So hearing those call-outs really means we're on the right track, people are paying attention to the right things, and we're on a good, successful path.
Yeah, ultimately, the countdown is the thing that aligns all the teams that are working together for liftoff. And, there's folks that are in mission control, but then there's lots of people behind the scenes as well. And that countdown is what aligns everybody to the right step in the process. So yeah, we just heard there that the crew has completed the suit-up process, and so we are hoping to get our first look at them today as they exit the Falcon support building.
All right.
And we're hearing that they are close to exiting the building. Not quite there yet. For those of you that have joined us recently, we are awaiting the crew to exit the Falcon support building.
Right, and you can see there on either side of where crew's going to be walking out, the Axiom logo patch, or the mission patch rather. And when crew comes out, they'll be greeted by I think it's called the advanced team crew, or the advanced team, Kate, is that correct?
So the advanced team is the group of people that are actually already out at the pad inside the tower and the capsule, preparing those areas for the crew's arrival. That we are expecting to see the crew exit any moment. They will get into a couple of Teslas that will take them up to the pad. In addition to the crew, we will also have the flight surgeon and closeout leads riding along in the Teslas along with our astronauts.
And you mentioned, Kate, riding the Teslas to the launch pad. It's a bit of a decent walk, I think, if they had to walk to the pad. But
we're on countdown.
And there they are. We're getting our first look at the Axiom 1 crew as they exit the suit-up room. We can see there Michael Lopez Alegria, Larry Connor, Eytan Stibbe, and Mark Pathy.
This is our first live look at the Axiom 1 crew suited up for their mission to the International Space Station.
You can see them there getting a few photos together. They look ready.
What do you think they're saying? 3, 2, 1.
That's perfect.
What?
I think they're saying, guys, we have worked so hard to get to this point, and let's go do this.
Yeah. That's great. So now they're going to hop into those Teslas. It's about a 2,000-foot drive, or walk if you wanted to. But, we want to keep everybody cool and comfortable before hopping into their spaceship. So we're going to drive them up to the pad from Falcon support building.
And as you saw on your left side of the screen, Michael Lopez Alegria, the commander, and Larry Connor, the pilot, are riding in one Tesla together, and in the other is Eytan Stibbe and Mark Pathy. So again, you can see there on the left side, from left to right, we have Larry Connor and MLA in one Tesla together, and on the right side of the screen, you can see Eytan Stibbe and Mark Pathy. So they're getting buckled in, the doors came down and closed, and they are ready to get to the pad.
Right now, the team inside the Tesla is just doing final checks with the crew, make sure everybody is good to go, and depart for the tower.
And for their own comfort, Kate, they have umbilicals in the Tesla that connect to them, so it keeps them cool and keeps powered on.
Yeah, we actually have vessels inside the Teslas themselves that pump out nitrox, or nitrogen, oxygen, air. We know it's the same stuff that scuba divers use in their tanks when they're underwater. And that is pumped through the vehicle into the suits to help make sure that the crew members, like you said, remain cool and comfortable during their ride. It's the same thing. It's basically the same hookup that we plug them into whenever they're actually inside the capsule itself.
Right. Well, as the Axiom 1 crew ride out to their rocket, we thought it fitting to hear a few of those from across the Axiom family wishing them well.
Space exploration has always been about inspiring others, and this AX-1 mission is bringing about a new type of inspiration for the world.
Congratulations, guys. I'm very excited to work with you to complete your science experiments and your educational outreach when you get on board ISS. Godspeed, and go AX-1 crew.
We know you guys are prepared, and we'll be supporting you here from Mission Control in Houston.
Launch day is finally here. Your cargo is packed and ready, and we can't wait to see you on orbit. Go AX-1.
I just wanted to wish you all luck and reiterate how inspiring this mission is for me and many people here on Earth.
The prop team at Axiom Space would like to wish the AX-1 crew safe travels to and from the ISS. Fly safe, and we'll see you on orbit.
I just want to wish you guys a safe, smooth ride up there. And on behalf of the Axiom operations leads, we're looking forward to supporting you guys when you get on board. Hope you have a good stay.
We are so excited about our first launch, and congratulations to the crew of AX-1 on making history.
Thanks for the payloads team. We're really proud of the science that you guys will be doing on this mission and look forward to hearing all about it once you get back here on Earth.
Thank you guys so much for letting us pioneer and improve upon the commercialization of space. We wish you the best of luck on your journey.
We are absolutely thrilled to have worked with you in building AX-1. We're so grateful that you are doing this first for us, and we cannot wait for you to come home safely.
We are so pleased to be involved with this historic moment that y'all are about to journey, and we are wishing you safe travels, infinity and beyond.
As you're taking the next step in the evolution of the space industry. So I want you guys to be proud of that, embrace it, and Godspeed.
The Wright brothers once said that the desire to fly has been handed down from our ancestors, looking up enviously at the birds soaring through space. And I just want to say it's now your time to be the envy of the birds as you soar higher and further than most of us could ever dare.
Good luck and Godspeed, AX-1.
So awesome to see well wishes from the Axiom teams.
Core on countdown 1. We're at T-minus 2 hours, 59 minutes. Crew have arrived at the pad. We are ahead of schedule.
All right, that was a commentary from SpaceX Core, or Crew Operations and Resources Engineer Arthur Berrialt, indicating that the crew has arrived, which, as you can see just there momentarily ago, exiting the Teslas. This is their first opportunity to get an up-close look at their ride to space today. It's worth noting that we did perform a dry dress rehearsal on Wednesday. Was that? Yeah, I guess Wednesday. And so we, just like we're doing today, we walked through all the steps. They've seen the rocket up close before, but not on launch day.
And not quite like this. I think it's a completely different feeling. When you're walking out of that FSB for the first time on launch day, right? You do the rehearsal, but today is completely different, right? You can see them there enjoying it. They are ready to go. That looks like Eytan there giving a good dance.
I mean, you can just feel his excitement through the camera lens.
Exactly. Well, and I think it really highlights the fact that this really is a return to flight for Israel, and the amount of work that each of these crew members have done to prepare for this mission has been outstanding. We mentioned earlier the training and choreography that leads up to a launch, and this crew has really gone above and beyond in their training to prep for this mission. 700 to 1,000 hours of training. They really set that bar high for what this mission means to them and how they want to give back to the mission. And so I think it's more than fitting here to have a little bit of time to look back and enjoy it and say, we are ready. We are ready to get up there, and we are ready to go to the ISS, and we're ready to participate.
So with that view there, you can actually see the elevator doors that they're about to hop into. They'll get in those elevators, which I should note, we are launching from pad 39A. This is the this is the pad that humanity went to the moon from. Apollo 11 launched from here, and the space shuttle then flew out of this pad after the Saturn V program ended. And we just saw MLA and Mark. That's great.
Yeah.
And so when SpaceX took over the lease for this launch pad in 2014, we did make some safety improvements and general refurbishments to the tower. So we did remove the rotating service structure, but what we see here, this is still the fixed service structure that existed in the shuttle program. So these elevators that this crew is getting into, MLA got in these elevators when he flew shuttle.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Now they're going to take these elevators up to the 255-foot level. In the tower, we don't mark it by level numbers. There we can see that they have exited the elevator.
Right. We see Mark Pathy there walking up the rest of the service structure. Well, it looked like MLA had taken a little bit of a glance out of the tower there, looking back down.
He's allowed.
He's allowed. He's got a bit of pedigree there. But just taking a look at where he's at, and here we're going to see Larry Connor and Eytan Stibbe riding up in the other elevator.
Yeah, so they're going to go up to the 255-foot level, and then right there we can see them ascending the final 10 feet up to the 265-foot level via a staircase. Now here they have an opportunity to use the telephone that is placed there. Same deal as with previous spaceflight missions of history. You get one last chance to call anyone. It's been noted that obviously we're broadcasting this live. We're saying there's a telephone, but back in the old days, astronauts used to love to not tell people that they could get a phone call before they got into their launch vehicle.
And then we see Eytan and Larry emerging from the elevator and making their way over to the telephone as well. And Kate, look, I'm seeing that advanced team, following them around. Everybody's got numbers marked down. It looks like everybody here has a very specific role to play in the, the pad walk up and all the way through crew ingress, right?
For sure. Everyone is in bunny suits. We want to make sure that the spacecraft itself is a clean environment. We are launching from Florida. There's bugs. There's no way to avoid them, from an atmospheric standpoint. So we really want to make sure that we block off any opportunity for FOD, foreign object debris, which could be a bug, could be a hair, could be anything that's not meant to be in the vehicle. And so you can actually see it in the right-hand corner. There's a small window, a rectangle, and that's basically a protective flap that blocks the open environment air from the crew access arm and therefore into the white room and into the capsule. So really making sure that environment is clean. That's why these our closeout leads and our suit technicians are in those bunny suits that you see there with numbers on the back. It's hard to tell people apart, so you are assigned a number. So we try to do our best here to make sure that everything that we don't want to go into, ultimately to go up to the space station, it stays out.
Right. And again, that's just one small part of the controls that are in place to really make sure that, launch day is successful. And another part of that is understanding the role that everybody plays. It's all part of the training that leads to this moment. As I'm sitting there watching it as well, I'm noticing the arrows marked on the ground, representing emergency egress paths and things like that. So saw a great moment there between Larry and Eytan. You can tell they're just excited about it.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, a lot of training has gone into what we're seeing today. That includes preparation for all scenarios. Those arrows on the floor basically indicate the quickest path to safety in the event that the teams need to exit the tower rapidly. So everything is, we try to think of everything, all scenarios. Preparation is ultimately the key to success. So there you see a view of that 265-foot level connected by the crew access arm over to the capsule. Now, we do see folks milling about. One thing to note, we did have part of the SpaceX crew actually here at the pad prior to the arrival of the crew. They're called the advance team. That's a small group of people that are basically responsible for preparing the cabin prior to the crew's arrival. They show up, they open the side hatch, they make sure that the cabin lights are on, they make sure that the task lights above each seat are functional and working, making sure that the displays are configured for crew ingress, initial comm checks, and you mentioned before, we've practiced everything. Everything is it's a choreograph.
Yeah.
That advanced team, it's so well choreographed. That advanced team in their procedures even have written, make sure there's a Sharpie.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
We're going to see the crew have the opportunity to add their signature to the white room, and it's actually in our procedures. Make sure that there's a Sharpie for the crew to sign the wall.
I love that.
Looks like one of our crew members is making that call. We think it's hard to tell.
I saw earlier Eytan leaning over the balcony, I think just taking everything in.
What a beautiful day. Looks like that might be Larry Connor on the phone.
And we see Mark and MLA there as well, talking to their crew team or to their suit teams as well, and that advanced team that Kate was talking about. And
yeah, so you might notice the closeout lead there in the black bunny suit on the right-hand side has a tablet. That tablet is basically what we use to go by step those electronic procedures that we have written. And as you see people stop and pause, and you might see the crew members give a thumbs up, that's all part of the procedure.
Right, and we get our first look here now as crew is walking towards the white room, getting ready for ingress into their Dragon capsule. We see MLA and Mark right there walking towards their capsule right now. They'll be ingressing first, and soon we should be able to get a good shot here as crew waits ingress.
As Mark and MLA make their way.
Countdown. We're at T-minus 2 hours, 50 minutes. Crew have arrived at the white room to prepare for ingress.
Now that MLA and Mark have arrived, as we just heard, down at the white room, we can see Larry and Eytan making their call, removing the gloves here to take that Sharpie and add their names.
Exactly.
So this is an opportunity for all astronauts that depart from Pad 39A on a Falcon 9 vehicle to add their signature to this room. You can see there at the left the NASA meatball with all of the NASA astronauts that have made this journey prior.
Yeah, and signing that wall is such a huge step, for any crew, I think, that gets to participate, but particularly, this is the first set of signatures of many for Axiom crew, and we're really looking forward to seeing a lot more signatures on that wall.
Now, after the signatures, the closeout leads there, the suit technicians, are basically, right now, we can see them doing a pre-ingress. You can see the next two are making their way down the crew access arm. Yeah, that closeout lead there is doing the pre-ingress checks, making sure that all the zippers are closed, making sure that the boot covers have been removed from their boots, removing the protective cap that's on top of the umbilical port. If it were raining, obviously it's a beautiful day in Florida.
Yeah.
And if it were raining, this would also be the opportunity that we would wipe the boots down before anybody enters. They're also just reminding the crew to be extremely careful when ingressing. There is, we want to make sure that, there's no contact between the side of the vehicle and their helmet, for example.
Right.
So just making sure that everyone, and again, we've practiced this many times, as you've mentioned. The crew has logged 700 to 1,000 hours. That involves practicing getting in and out of the capsule.
Yeah, but like you said, this is a really controlled environment, right? This is really, when you button that hatch up, that is ready to go to ISS. And that controlled environment you got to take care of and make sure that you're, it's a crowded room in there, as we can see right behind Larry and Eytan as they're awaiting their ingress trans as well. But it's busy in there, and we got to make sure that you're watching out for things like hatch seals and making sure that all of their flight suits are well taken care of and well maintained as they get into the vehicle. But like you said, Kate, it's a well rehearsed, well choreographed situation.
So it looks like the closeout leads are performing that pre-ingress check. Now there's already a closeout lead or a suit technician inside the capsule. They're ready to support the crew members as they make their way into their chairs.
And first up for ingress will be Commander MLA, or Michael Lopez Alegria. You see Mark there getting a pat on the back as well, saying, hey, man, congratulations, let's make this happen.
So basically, they get in their seats. Obviously, got to buckle up. Looks like Mark Pathy is now in his seat. That suit technician will help them. It's more than just a seatbelt like you and I are accustomed to in a car. It's actually a 5-point safety harness. So they'll do an initial buckling in, they don't tighten it completely. They want people to still be comfortable.
Right.
They're going to be sitting in the capsule for a little while.
Yeah.
We're just under 3 hours until liftoff. So they're going to get in, tighten that safety harness, make sure that the footrest and everything is comfortable for the crew.
Right. Well, and one thing we didn't get to see earlier with the flight suit-up room, but they, as they're sitting in and getting suited up, they are allowed to kind of sit back in some chairs to kind of see how do these chairs feel. And I think you told me something interesting about the seats on these Dragon spacecraft, right? They're kind of customized a little bit for.
Absolutely. So while they're not custom molded, they are custom sized. So you can think of it as like small, medium, and large in terms of the size of the bucket that they sit in. So essentially the length of the seat from spine to head. Everybody's different. And we want to make sure that, during dynamic operations, such as liftoff and re-entry, that the body is ergonomically supported. And so things like that bucket seat, small, medium, and large sized, as well as the armrest and the footrests are all sized as well, because everybody's different.
Right. And crew, it's important for them to be not only as comfortable as they need to be, but also for effective use inside the capsule during their journey. Everybody's got a different role to play on the uphill, and I think one of the things that is an important check as crew gets into their seat is not only are they harnessed in correctly, that the umbilicals are connecting correctly, but also that they're comfortable. That they have movement and range to interface with the displays and everything else expected of their roles while in orbit.
Absolutely. Looks like we're just here getting final goodbyes from Eytan Stibbe.
I love seeing that.
As you can tell, the SpaceX team and the Axiom team are really close. We've been working together for this day for months, and as we've said a couple of times, everything is really well rehearsed. They've practiced this.
Right.
And the bonds that are formed between crew members and the support crew, obviously, as we just saw, really tight.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a huge team of dedicated, hardworking people to get a mission off the ground. And that's one of the things about these initial private astronaut missions is that's what we're trying to learn. That's what we're trying to work towards together, understanding all the collaboration, all the cooperation needs to happen on and off the ground in order to get these missions off the ground and be successful. So over the shoulder there, we can see MLA. I find it interesting, Kate. It looks like you've got 2 stickers on the inside of the Dragon capsule.
Yes.
Just over the head of MLA there.
So this capsule has flown twice before. It previously supported the Crew 2 mission, and before that, it flew on our Demo 2 mission, which, for those that might be unfamiliar, that was SpaceX's first human spaceflight mission, where we carried NASA astronauts, Bob and Doug, or as we like to call them here at SpaceX, our space dads. We took them to the International Space Station, and it was the first time that NASA astronauts departed for space from American soil since the retirement of the space shuttle program. So I love this capsule. I've been inside of it. In my previous role, I was in the production organization, and so I was in this capsule when we were building it, and it's very near and dear to my heart. So I love being able to see it reused for further missions.
I mean, and that's a reason that, you know, the future of spaceflight, being commercial and private, you have to have that type of reusability, right? And I think seeing those 2 patches on there really is a testament to the success and the importance of reusability, but also, you know, showcasing the pedigree of this vehicle. It's been put through its paces. It's been tried out. Crew loves flying it, from what I understand. And so it's really nice to see that, you know, that's indicated with those mission patches on it. It's a nice little shout out.
Mm-hmm. At this point in time, all 4 crew members have ingressed the vehicle. They are in their seats. And the suit techs, the closeout team on the SpaceX side, are doing final checks and making sure that everybody is buckled in properly, making sure that, you know, ultimately that the crew is good, doing final FOD, or not final, but doing FOD checks. Foreign object debris is what I mean when I say FOD. And just making sure that everything is comfortable prior to doing seat rotation and comm checks.
Right. You know, and one of the other things about seeing those mission patches, like I really find mission patches interesting. I think they're a really important shout out to what is the heart of this mission, right? And so, you know, going into that a little bit, that insignia plays an important role, right, in capturing the soul of a mission. So let's go and take a closer look at the AX-1 mission patch itself. So, representing the heart of this mission is the ISS itself, with the solar array wings prominently displayed as each crew member's national flag, and signifying the key message of this particular mission: international cooperation and collaboration. Behind the ISS, you can see a cascading plane of blue, representing Earth's atmosphere and highlighting the journey humanity has taken to get to this new chapter. Above the ISS, 4 bright stars, anchored by an atom in the center, create a constellation marking the mission's scientific and aspirational objectives. And then finally, the golden border around the patch represents the significance of this mission to the people of Israel, inspired by the logo of the Rakia banner.
So there we can see Commander MLA accessing his crew tablet, where he is able to monitor mission status and follow along with our procedures. Amazing view of pad 39A with 39B in the background there. Gosh, what a gorgeous day in Florida.
Yeah, it's looking like a perfect launch day.
Looking at the launch vehicle there, you can see that the top half is, you know, has a very bright white color. The bottom half has a little bit more of a grayish color. In addition to the fact that the Dragon has been reused, we've also reused this Falcon 9 first stage as well. It will be making its 5th flight today. It previously supported the Inspiration 4 mission just a few months ago.
Yeah, you know, it's another testament to that reusability that we talked about. Without this, these private astronaut missions wouldn't be possible.
Yeah. So far, SpaceX has completed 32 Dragon missions, including 29 visits to the International Space Station. 13 of those 29 missions have been on reflown Dragons, which, saying it out loud, is still just wild to me.
That won't
it's
ever
incredible.
Get old.
The Dragon capsule flying today, like we mentioned before, has flown before. Named Endeavour, it will be making its 3rd trip to space. It previously supported the NASA Crew 2 mission, and before that, Demo 2. As for our launch vehicle, Falcon 9 has completed 145 total launches, over half of those on reflown rockets like the one that we are using today. And like I said, that booster will be making its 5th flight today.
Like you said, it has that well-deserved and well-earned patina on that first stage.
Yeah, each time a first stage returns to the launch site, we put it through a vehicle maintenance program. Because we have reusable hardware, we can do thorough post-flight assessments and improve reliability and simplicity. So for those of you that might not be familiar with our reuse efforts, we've actually flown one of our Falcon 9 boosters 12 times. And we have more flights planned for it later this year.
So looking a little bit at crew there of what we can see on screen, we see Mark, Larry giving those fist bumps. We see MLA, and then Eytan over on the far right. What can you tell us a bit about this seat arrangement inside the Dragon capsule, Kate?
Yeah, so it's pretty standard in terms of the role that sits where. So if you look at the 2 center seats, the left center seat, always the pilot. The right center seat is always the commander. And then, as I like to call them, the window seats, which would be where I would definitely want to fly, are for our mission specialists.
And those window seats are great for enjoying the view, but as we alluded to before, and as we can see through, all of the procedural checks being followed today, discussing crew's training, we know that they have a breadth of mission objectives while they're up there. This is really more than just a trip to space. These guys have a very, very large set of objectives that they're going to be achieving on their flight, and they've been in this from day one. They've been training hard. They plan, they train, they fly.
Yeah.
And it's really highlighting the fact that everybody's got a role to play here, and it doesn't stop. Once you get on orbit, they're going to keep on going.
For sure. Yeah, just like on orbit, everything is scheduled, choreographed, same thing on the ground. The procedures that we're following today, as we've said before, we've rehearsed this a couple of times, whether live on the pad or in simulations at various training centers. So while it is the first time that we can say it's launch day. It is not the first time that they've been in these suits. It's not the first time that they've been in these seats. Everything is well planned. No surprises. That's the goal.
Exactly. Looks like we're getting some final adjustments with the outfitting team there, with the advanced team rather.
Yeah, so the next thing that we have coming up will be Comm Checks with the crew and the various ground support teams. And after that, we get to rotate the seats back. And at that point in time, it's really just, wait for the crew.
Yep.
It's like that moment when you get on a roller coaster, you get buckled in, and you're just sitting there.
You're ready.
And you're just waiting for it to start chugging along.
Exactly.
Although in the case of Falcon 9, it's not really a chug along.
Yeah.
It takes off.
Yeah. Well, based on some of the reactions from crew we've been seeing earlier, right? Seeing a lot of Larry's excitement early in the day. Even as they're buttoned in, comm checks would be complete at a certain point, and you're waiting. I don't think the excitement's going to be dying down.
So in that shot on the left, you can actually see the Falcon support building just behind the hangar. So that kind of gives you perspective of how far the crew journeyed in their suits in those Teslas.
Right, definitely a walk you can make, but if you're going to be in that suit all day long, it may not be one you want to.
Yeah, I've made that walk many times, and not in a spacesuit, but can confirm it's a little bit of a hike. The incline up to the pad, it catches up with you.
Yeah.
I just love this view of pad 39A. That part to the right of the structure, it looks like a pole that's connected. That is where the rotating service structure was attached to the fixed service structure back in the shuttle days. So, it's just so cool to see the next era of human spaceflight being ushered into reality from this, hollowed ground.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now the crew is checking in on their tablets and doing final checks with the closeout leads, which are the SpaceX team members that you can see there. Once again, making sure that the 5-point safety harness is secure, making sure that everybody's boots are able to be buckled into place there on the footrests, making sure that everybody's zippers are closed into the correct position. Right now, they don't have to have their visors down, so they're still able to, talk and converse comfortably, but we do have their umbilical cords plugged in to the capsule, so that umbilical provides communication and avionics and that kind of stuff to the crew, but it also provides that cool air, that nitrox mixture that we talked about before. Which is same stuff that scuba divers use in their tanks to breathe underwater, but it just that cool air flowing through the suit. Because I don't know about you, but if I were sitting in that chair, I would be sweating bullets of excitement, just ready to go.
Yeah, I know I certainly would be too, and I'm glad to hear that you have the features ready there to keep crew comfortable while they're waiting. But that also serves another purpose, right? You get to later when you do your comm checks and you keep your cooling, but it's also the umbilical for their uphill.
For sure. Great shot there of our Axiom 1 crew getting ready for comm checks and seat rotation. I just love seeing these 4 guys interact with each other.
Yeah.
As we said before, you can see that the bond between the SpaceX team and the Axiom team is really close, but the bond between them is also, and they just seem like such a fun group. I love seeing Eytan dancing earlier before while he was looking at the rocket from the ground.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not bond with the kind of training that they've gone through, right? And what this mission means to each of them, right? It carries a lot of weight for each crew member. We heard a bit about Eytan's story in particular, but they've really come to bond over the course of their training.
Yeah, so the top part of what we see there, that is the pressurized section of Dragon. That's where our crew is seated. The bottom portion that's half black, half white, that's the Dragon trunk. That is the unpressurized section. The black side is actually the solar panels that are utilized to deliver power to the capsule while on orbit and on station. That trunk will go up to the space station, but then in 10 days when the crew departs the space station, we will actually jettison the trunk prior to splashdown, and that allows for the heat shield.
SpaceX, Crew Dragon Endeavour here. We're ready for comm checks.
All right, so that was the voice of Commander MLA.
Yeah, looks like we're ready for comm checks.
Copy Dragon, good morning. Stand by for umbilical comm checks.
On the right-hand side of your screen, that is SpaceX Crew Operations and Resources Engineer, or CORE, Arthur Berriault, seated here at Hawthorne Mission Control.
CDR, PLT, MS1, MS2, comm check.
CDR has you loud and clear.
PLT, loud and clear. MS1, loud and clear.
MS2, loud and clear.
And CORE, loud and clear. Umbilical comm check is now complete. Stand by for ground station comm check. Dragon, SpaceX, Comm Check.
SpaceX Endeavor, loud and clear on the ground station.
Core, loud and clear. Ground station Comm Check is complete. Stand by for TDRS Comm Check. Dragon, SpaceX, Comm Check.
SpaceX Endeavor, loud and clear on TDRS.
And Core, loud and clear. TDRS Comm Check is complete. Stand by for Comm Checks with MD and LD in the launch configuration.
Dragon, SpaceX, on countdown 1, Comm Check.
Good morning, Anna. I hear you loud and clear.
Good morning. I hear you loud and clear as well. Stand by for Comm Check over Dragon to ground. Dragon MD on Dragon to ground, Comm Check.
Loud and clear on Dragon to ground also. Good morning.
MD loud and clear. Stand by for Comm Checks with LD.
Dragon LD on countdown 1. Comm Check.
They want good to be with you this morning. You're loud and clear.
And good morning to you too, Michael. I have you loud and clear. Stand by for Comm Check over Dragon to ground. Dragon LD on Dragon to ground. Comm Check.
LD Endeavor, you're still loud and clear.
And LD, loud and clear. Godspeed the day, fellas. Let's go have some fun.
Indeed.
And Endeavor, SpaceX, launch configuration Comm Checks are now complete. Please report when ready for seat rotation per section 2 of 4.100.
Roger, stand by. SpaceX Endeavor, we're ready for seat rotation.
Just over T-minus 2 hours, 23 minutes to launch. Everything continuing to go well. View right now showing the Axiom crew inside the spacecraft. About another minute or so, we ought to begin the seat rotation.
Dragon SpaceX we are ready to initiate seat rotation.
Okay, we're standing by.
Crew is ready. SpaceX Advanced team is outside of the capsule. They'll watch as we rotate the crews into the launch position.
Initiating seat rotation.
Nice view watching the seats rotate, the crew displays above them. This will get them positioned for launch, a little bit more comfortable recline as we head on out into low Earth orbit.
Dragon SpaceX seats are in the launch position.
Thanks, Arthur.
Okay, that's what we like to hear. Seats are in the launch position. We're just over 2 hours, 21 minutes away from the launch of Axiom 1. And as you can see, the 4-person crew is in the Dragon spacecraft. They've just completed their communications checks with the ground team. Those checks verified that the communication umbilical is...
Dragon SpaceX. With that, I can give you a go to step through Section 3, suit leak check preparation.
Copy, Arthur. We'll put that in work.
Okay, we've heard the crew given the go-ahead to do a quick suit leak check. You can see them closing the visors. They'll do a short, just a few-minute check to make sure the suit integrity is good. While they're doing that, a little bit of a recap. We did hear the communications checks about 5 minutes ago. Went through 3 different paths. The umbilical that's hooked up to the Dragon spacecraft, that separates right at liftoff. Comms were good there to the ground team. We also did communications checks through the radio frequency transmitters, as well as the NASA tracking and data relay satellite that's up in geosynchronous orbit. So all the comm checks were good. Meanwhile, back in Mission Control, we heard the Dragon team also doing the comm checks. Mission Control Center is located here in SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Meanwhile, out at Kennedy Space Center,
complete, ready for leak checks.
sounds like we've got good suit leak checks. As I said, at Kennedy Space Center, we've got the Falcon and Dragon launch teams. They're in firing room 4. Got a great view of the pad on a good weather day.
Copy, Dragon. With that, I'll give you a go for Section 4 suit leak checks.
Ah, sorry.
Didn't work.
There we go. Call out to actually begin the timer. Speaking of the weather, you can see on the left screen the Dragon spacecraft with the crew access arm, blue skies, some light clouds overhead. Weather's very good today. Probability of violation continues at 10%. Mostly that just winds, but nothing really to be concerned about. And the trajectory out over the eastern seaboard of the U.S. headed northeast also looks acceptable. And so the good news is weather is cooperating. Launch vehicle right now looking good. We're powered on, but mostly just monitoring systems. We will continue checking out Falcon 9 at about T-1 hour when we begin a fuel bleed-in on the Merlin engines. Dragon team also monitoring the spacecraft. They've done a lot of their significant work earlier, including pressurizing the Draco thruster system, doing an inertial measurement unit alignment. And right now they're working mostly the mechanical activities, getting the crew in, and as we'll see coming up, the hatch closeout, leak checks, and then eventually at T-1 hour, the advanced team will be leaving the pad. So right now, T-2 hours, 18 minutes, 10 seconds. All systems continue to be go for an on-time launch this morning of the Axiom 1 mission.
Everything continuing to progress nominally in preparation for our launch of the Axiom 1 crew in 2 hours and 17 minutes. Everyone is, as you can see, buckled in their seat. The crew has performed their comm checks. The seats have been rotated back to access those touchscreen panels above them. And they're currently in progress with their suit leak checks. So basically pressurizing the suits for a certain period of time to make sure that basically all those buttons are zippered up appropriately and the visors are locking in place. So we can see them going through those leak checks now. Now, those spacesuits that you see were designed in-house here at SpaceX, and while they look super cool, that's not their primary function. The spacesuit is actually a really important extension of the spacecraft itself, and a lot more complex than you would think at just a glance. Here are two members of our spacesuit team, Chris Trigg and Maria Sundin, telling us how this suit came to be.
I think one of the things that was important in the development of the suit was to make it easy to use, something that the crew just has to literally plug in when they sit down, and then the suit kind of takes care of itself from there. So the suit is really kind of one part of the bigger Dragon system. It's really part of the vehicle. So we think of it as kind of a suit-seat system. So the seat that the crew is in and the suit are in a lot of ways working together. And so it made sense that we were designing Dragon in-house to also design the suit.
Our spacesuit is completely designed in-house. It's built here in Hawthorne, California, in the same building as the rocket and the capsule. The spacesuit is custom-made for each crew member, and that is to optimize the fit for the crew member.
We definitely wanted to innovate, and we wanted it to look inspiring, but first and foremost, we wanted it to be safe and reliable. The spacesuit's primary purpose is to protect the crew in the unlikely event that the cabin were to depressurize. But the suit does a number of additional things. It provides cooling and communication to the crew inside of the suit. It provides them hearing protection. And the outer layer of the suit is flame resistant, so it provides flame protection as well. When the crew gets in the capsule, they get in their seats and they plug the suit into the umbilical that's attached to the seats. And the umbilical is providing everything that the suit needs. So it provides the avionics or electronics for communications, is providing the air to cool the suit, and then it also provides gas when needed to pressurize the suit. So it's really a single point that lets the suit do all the things that it needs to do. We designed the helmet in-house. The helmet serves a number of different functions. Obviously, it's protecting the crew's head and it's retaining gas like the rest of the suit, but it also houses the microphones as well as the valves that are regulating pressure in the suit. We had to design the gloves so that they would work with the touchscreen so that the crew could use the touchscreen while they were in their suit. But the gloves also still had to do a number of other things like the rest of the suit. And then, of course, they have to be able to work under pressure. I think one of the things that's cool about the suit is it's not just a piece of hardware, it's not just a suit. It's a very personal thing to work on for everyone on the team who's been building these, and so it's a really amazing thing.
So about a minute and a half ago, we heard on the nets that we had 4 good suit leak checks. So that was the next milestone that we were working through. So good news there. The crew is continuing to check off things on their to-do list, essentially, for today. Now, as you might imagine, our crew for today's mission, Michael Lopez Alegria, Larry Connor, Eytan Stibbe, and Mark Pathy, have gone through extensive training. As we've mentioned before, they've logged between 700 and 1,000 hours since mid-2021 of time dedicated to learning the SpaceX protocols, International Space Station systems, and ultimately to prepare for their respective research portfolios. To prepare the AX-1 crew for their mission, our teams here at SpaceX have spent the last several months teaching the crew about orbital mechanics, how to live in microgravity, and even running simulations of what the full mission will look like while seated in Dragon, as you can see there. This team has studied nearly 100 different training lessons covering all aspects of the mission. As the commander, Michael, or MLA, focused on guiding his crew through all of their SpaceX, NASA, and space station training. Our trainers have told us that he has demonstrated exemplary leadership in building a cohesive crew that can tackle any problem they're given and work together to solve it through effective communication. As the pilot, Larry spent time developing his technical and operational skills as a first-time flyer in order to build a foundation for piloting Crew Dragon. Larry also served as the translator for his mission specialists, breaking down the technical data for his crewmates. And as mission specialists, Eytan and Mark have spent a majority of their training becoming proficient in operating equipment, interfaces, and a suite of other tools at their disposal to support the crew members throughout the ascent, rendezvous, and return portions of this mission.
Right, but their training doesn't stop there, right? They had a lot that they had to cover. So the AX-1 crew has also completed things like zero-G flights to become familiar with the microgravity environment, as well as centrifuge training to experience the exact launch and entry profiles that they'll feel during their mission. Additionally, they went through wilderness survival training to simulate and practice high-stress scenarios, as well as medic training to prepare for potential illnesses that they might experience while in orbit. And as the first all-private crew to live and work aboard the International Space Station, they have been training at NASA facilities, specifically NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, since August 2021. Each crew member has completed training in health, safety, space station systems, and emergency protocols to ensure that they can each work autonomously without interrupting the workflow of other astronauts while on board the ISS. And naturally, each crew member has their own portfolio of research they will conduct or participate in. Many of these studies have required the crew to train on the techniques and best practices of their respective principal investigators. So, bottom line, to wrap that up, this crew really is setting the standard in how they approach training, right? They've really exceeded the requirements of the mission, and they've certainly surpassed all of our expectations. And it really highlights that this mission represents more than just the first fully private flight to ISS. As mentioned earlier, it's establishing many new protocols and means of collaboration between government and private institutions. This crew really wanted to give back to the ISS, and they really wanted to give back to the mission and truly be a part of the team. And to do that, you have to be all in 100%. And so by immersing themselves in their training, they really set that bar high for private space flights and partnership efforts to come.
Yeah, for sure. So we can see there our crew members checking in on their tablets, monitoring the step of the procedure that we're currently working through. Right now, the closeout team there at the capsule are performing final interior inspections, basically making sure that everything in the cabin is stowed, making sure that, of course, the crew members are all buckled in safely, and basically making sure that everything is in the final flight configuration. We don't want anything floating around that's not supposed to be. During their mission. So final interior inspections. After that, the team will perform a visual inspection of the hatch in preparation for hatch closure. So we're continuing to make our way towards T0 at just over almost 2 hours and 10 minutes from now. We're now under 2 hours and 10 minutes. So everything continuing to track nominally in preparation for our instantaneous liftoff moment.
Yep.
We can see there, once again, the tablets that they have allow the crew to monitor the procedures that we're working off of, and the touch screens, the touch screens that they have just above their heads there are where they can monitor the active operations of the capsule itself. Nothing happening at this moment, but in flight, that will be an important piece of telemetry.
Right, and that was an important thing, that the SpaceX team, when developing the suits, had to really pay attention to, right? We heard Chris mention that just a moment ago. Yep. The development was really important for understanding, they knew that was the way forward for piloting vehicles and for interacting with your vehicle, and so they baked that right into the design of the spacecraft.
Absolutely. Something that we are very proud of, that the fact that Dragon is mostly autonomous, thanks to software. It, for the most part, flies itself. Of course, the crew is trained extensively on how to be a backup to that software, but for the most part, as you can see, there is no joystick to steer the rocket, thankfully. So yeah, everything is conducted there in terms of executing the mission there from those touch screens above their heads.
Right. Well, as we watch crew button up the rest of their movement, we'd like to take a bit of time now to talk about a keystone objective of the AX-1 mission, science and research. So to help us unpack the breadth of Axiom managed payloads, joining us now is Christian Mander, Director of In-Space Manufacturing and Research at Axiom Space. Christian, welcome.
Hey, thanks. The sun is shining. It's great to be here.
Right, Christian, so thank you for joining us. Well, increasing the amount of research performed in low Earth orbit is a goal of Axiom's efforts with private astronaut missions like AX-1, and eventually our future Axiom station. So high level, can you share some information about all the research happening on AX-1 and Axiom's role to enable it all?
Sure, we are really fortunate to have a crew that is so dedicated to doing research on this mission. We have over 25 experiments that we're going to be doing during the flight on the ISS, and we have a number of projects that we're doing before and after the flight as well. The crew has prepared tremendously hard for this. Axiom works with the crew to put together these complements and ultimately get everything put together and packaged up for flight. And then ultimately we help the crew get trained and get on their way. They are going to be incredibly busy on orbit. They have very full timelines along the way here, and we're looking forward to seeing each mission day unfold.
Yeah, so are we on the ground. We know they've got a very busy week in front of them. And you mentioned how each crew member has their own portfolio. So let's talk a little bit about each crew member specifically. What can you tell us about Larry's efforts?
Well, Larry is really focused on some really key studies with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic that focus on aging and brain health and heart health. And in particular, he's doing a couple projects on the ground that are looking at him as a human subject. And then in flight, he is also going to be doing some experiments with stem cells and with cells, two different kinds of cells, cardiac cells and with cells that are looking at aging. And in fact, he's working with a PI named James Kirkland at Mayo Clinic, who focuses on cellular aging, otherwise known as senescence. And so we've got a clip from Dr. Kirkland to tell you a little bit more.
My name's Jim Kirkland. I'm the Neuaber Foundation Professor of Aging Research at Mayo Clinic. I'm also president of the American Federation for Aging Research, and I'm principal investigator on something called the Translational Geroscience Network. I'm a geriatrician, endocrinologist, and internist, but also a PhD molecular biologist, and I'm interested in developing interventions that delay, prevent, or alleviate multiple diseases by going after fundamental aging processes. One of the things that we're working on is the Cellular Senescence program, and the other, my colleague Andrew Terzic, is looking at cardiovascular issues. And so there are a series of experiments that both of our groups are doing with Larry and the other astronauts' help. The project that my lab's working on and my group's working on is mainly related to a process called cellular senescence. So cellular senescence is a fundamental aging mechanism. They're what we call the so-called pillars of aging, and they're joined together there in what we call a unitary hypothesis. And these fundamental aging processes appear to be root cause contributors to multiple conditions. So the idea is to find out on a short space mission where there's the predominant effect will be zero gravity, some radiation, if senescence develops. Larry and his group are also taking up cells that we're providing with them that are what we call pre-senescent. These are human cells in culture. They're going to be tending the cells while they're up there and changing the medium on them. And we're asking whether those cells become senescent in space. So special culture containers had to be developed for this by Axiom, special incubators. And Larry, we've trained him and his colleagues in how to change the medium. They have to take up these needles. And when he comes back, we'll have parallel cells on the ground that we will compare to the cells that have been up in space, and the insights that we will get from the experiments he is planning to do, both allowing his own blood and other fluids to be analyzed, and also by looking after cells that are taken in space, could help a lot of people with a lot of conditions that go far beyond space travel to everything from childhood cancer survivors through to Alzheimer's disease.
Well, excellent. So essentially, Dr. Kirkland and Terzic are really looking at how microgravity can reveal new mechanisms in cellular aging and cardiac health. And the hope is that what we learn from space is ultimately we can translate to solving age-related conditions on Earth.
Really cool to see that. I just want to note real quick about 2 minutes ago while that package was running, we did hear from on the nets that we did get the green light to proceed to hatch closure. Awesome. So really good news there. Excellent. Christian, back to you. What can you tell us about mission specialist Mark Pathy's research portfolio?
Well, Mark has got a mission focused around caring for people on the planet, and so he's working with 6 different universities and their researchers in the Canadian area, and then he also is working with 2 startup companies for some technology demonstrations, and he's also working with some institutions in Canada to do some Earth observation work. One of the studies that he's particularly focusing on is about pain sensation in space, and he's working with Pablo Angelmo, who is a PI at McGill University and works with the Montreal Children's Hospital. We've got Dr. Angelmo on video here to talk a little bit more about his research and why it's so important.
I'm Dr. Pablo Angelmo. I'm professor of anesthesia at McGill University and director of the Edwards Family Interdisciplinary Center for Complex Pain at the Montreal Children's Hospital. The knowledge we have about the relationship between microgravity and pain is minimal, almost non-existent. We know that half of the astronaut who goes into space will experience pain while they're in space or when they come back to Earth. To better understand why these people have pain, we assembled a research team of the Allen Edwards Center for Research on Pain of McGill University, from Concordia University, and also from the MD Anderson Hospital Cancer Center in Houston. This project also involved transfer of technology from the University of Pennsylvania. Our team includes experts in pain sensation, in the genetic mechanism of pain, in bone pain, in intervertebral degeneration, and in musculoskeletal spine imaging and rehabilitation. The novelty of our project is that we are trying to answer several questions from different perspectives and different angles in a single study, but in reality, we are conducting 6 studies in one. We are not looking just for the abnormalities in people who have pain, but we want to understand why some people get better after an acute insult, like microgravity. That happens every day in Earth. We plan to incorporate that information collected from astronauts into animal models, which may lead to application in humans, and eventually in different ways to treat them. Our hope is that information we collect will advance on research on help people here on Earth. I would say that Mark Pathy and his colleagues are giving us their time before, during, and after the flight. This will create new models of analysis for helping people in pain here, every day. I'm very grateful for their commitment and generosity.
As Dr. Angelmo talks about, this is some really novel research. This complex package of work that he's put together is really setting out to understand more about the dynamics of short-term spaceflight and pain sensation in space. And the hope is, again, the things that we learn in space will play their way back into ground interventions that we can do that help people with pain on Earth.
Yeah, Christian, I think the main takeaway for me is showing research like that really highlights the direct impacts that we can get from research done on orbit. It's not all indirect. But moving on to rounding out the mission, right? We know that Eytan has a significant amount of work in front of him. So what can you tell us more about Eytan's time on orbit?
Well, Eytan has put together an impressive complement along with he has worked carefully and closely with the Ramon Foundation in Israel and the Israeli Space Agency. The focus of his mission, they've named their mission Rakia, which really loosely translates to sky or firmament. But it's really a package of research that spans
My name is Inbal Kreis. As the head of Innovation, System, Missile, and Space Division at Israel Aerospace Industries, I led the scientific and technological program of the Rakia mission. The Rakia mission will allow Israeli scientists, entrepreneurs, and students to test their experiment in the unique space environment. All the experiments in Rakia mission led by Eytan Stibbe are innovative and were chosen by a scientific committee based on their impact potential. 35 experiments arise from diverse fields of studies such as astrophysics, optics, radiation, communication, energy, agriculture, neurology, plasma technology, disease research, new therapies development, and many more. For example, in optics, the Fluid Lenses experiment, a joint project of the Technion and NASA, aims to enable, for the first time, the creation of optical components in space. In neurology, we are testing how we can take advantage of the conditions of microgravity to improve drug delivery to the human brain. An experiment of device to protect space systems from cosmic radiation. This technology will enable the use of commercial electronics in space environment. Testing recycling in space, the effect of microgravity on the rate of decay of plastic by bacteria. In agriculture, growing specific seeds in space as superfood and also for water purification, making the impossible possible. This is what makes Israel a startup nation, Israel the innovation nation. AX1 and Rakia mission are positioning Israel as a leading technological player in the global space community. I look forward to exciting scientific and technological results. Good luck.
Well, the whole country of Israel is really excited about Eytan's mission, and I think for me what's most compelling about the Rakia mission is how it really is going to act as a catalyst for the innovation in country to really take advantage of new opportunities in space for both profit and discovery. And so we're really excited to move forward with this mission, and we're gonna really knock out a lot of science with Eytan.
Yeah, certainly. You know, it's incredible to think that so many of these new studies are being given time on station because of the efforts of this crew and Axiom Space. But beyond the specific studies we've just highlighted, you know, there are several others that Axiom has been managing and will manage. Can you share with us a little bit more about these?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. We at Axiom are also using this flight to really further research and technology development that we think either plays a role in developing new in-space manufacturing applications or research applications in the future, and also maybe technologies that will help build future spacecraft. So we have a project where we're looking at stem cells to understand more about precancer and cancerous changes in tumors. We have research that we're doing on the crew with partners in Houston to understand more about what it means to keep a more diverse population healthy in space. We're flying some really cool technology that is autonomous and self-assembly of different panels in space that will ultimately play a role in building new spacecraft autonomously in orbit. And we're even flying a new technology that uses light to remove odors from the cabin, and probably super important on a mission like this where you're going to have 11 people on board for 10 days together. So a lot of different things that we're breaking out, and more that I can't even talk about here, but a lot that we're adding to the crew's mission that we have on orbit.
Well, Christian, that's great to hear. Thank you for walking us through the scope of AX1's research objectives. We're obviously going to be staying very, very well aware of these over the next few days. So, you know, this crew's really setting the bar high and adding all the volume of science that's being conducted on board.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
So as you can see there on your screen, the side hatch has been closed. The crew is now in the capsule. The door has been shut, so the closeout team did those final checks with the crew to make sure that they're ready to go to space today. So they closed the side hatch. They performed a leak check where they basically inflate a seal around the side hatch and hold it at a certain pressure for a certain amount of time and make sure that the seal is good. So that side hatch has been closed. The closeout crew and the suit technicians are still on the exterior, as you can see there on the left-hand side of your screen. And they are preparing to finish things up, and then we'll be stepping into Comm Checks with the crew and our ground teams here on the ground.
Right, and like you mentioned, Kate, you know, it's inch by inch to get us into space, right? We take steps all along the way to make sure, are we getting good comm checks? Good. Are we getting good leak checks? Good. All right, now let's close the hatch and let's check it out again, right? So it's all part of the process that this crew's a part of, and that all crews on the ground are a part of, to make sure that we have a successful mission today. And, you know, I think crew's now at that spot that you were talking about earlier. All right, we're ready. I see that hatch closed, and I know I got good comms. Let's get to space.
Yeah, watching that seat rotation is always an exciting moment for me, because you can see expressions change.
Yeah.
You can see body language change, because that seat rotation back into the launch position for the crew is the final physical movement that they have prior to liftoff. Right. So it's always fun to watch. Now the crew's there on the left-hand side of your screen again. We're performing we're performing the leak check on the side hatch. And you can see the tablets there the crew is using to follow along with the data that's coming in from that leak check, as well as just monitoring where we are in the closeout process. As I've said a couple of times already, everything is extremely well choreographed. Every step of the procedure is documented down to details like, you know, make sure there's a Sharpie in the white room prior to crew's arrival to make sure that they can add their name to the wall of signatures that you see there. So everything is very well documented, and that's what the crew is tracking there on those tablets, our e-procedures, electronic procedures. Right now we're about 2 minutes into the 5-minute wait for that leak check. So like I said, we inflate the seal around the side hatch and hold it at a pressure for 5 minutes, and monitor that data to make sure that it holds that pressure for the 5 minutes. After this leak check completes, we will step into comm checks with the crew, and that's basically a how do I want to phrase this? A roundabout with the crew and all the ground systems to make sure that communication lines are loud and clear for the crew.
Right, and followed by that, it's just marching down towards T0, right? We have, you know, launch escape system checks being armed after that. Closeout team will depart, and the crew armor tracks, and we just keep working our way towards launch.
Yeah, yep. Which now just about 1 hour and 15 minutes away. So once the leak check for the side hatch completes and the closeout team departs the white room and ultimately the tower, it's a lot of waiting for the crew. Yeah. So it's a lot of excitement. Oh, the seats are rotating, it's happening, and then it's wait.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, and while we're waiting for those checks, let's take a little closer look at the crew again today. So serving as commander for this mission is Michael Lopez Alegria, or MLA, as you've heard some of us call him. He's a veteran of 3 space shuttle flights, 1 Soyuz flight, and numerous spacewalks.
For side hatch leak check.
Go ahead.
All right, MLA, they were seeing some leak rate trending in the wrong direction, so we're going to reopen the side hatch temporarily, try and clean off that seal, and then re-close the side hatch to re-perform the side hatch leak check. How copy?
Okay, Arthur, we copy that.
All right, so that was just a note from SpaceX Core Arthur Burial to the crew to let them know that we're going to reopen the side hatch. It sounds like that, as I mentioned before, we inflate the seal around the side hatch and hold it at a pressure. Sounds like we saw just a little bit of pressure loss there in that leak check, so we're going to reopen it and wipe down everything along that seal to see if we can get that to close up properly.
Right, and as Kate mentioned, we heard that conversation between Core and MLA. So, you know, taking a closer look at MLA here while we wait for those leak checks, you know, this will be his 3rd trip to the International Space Station. His last one was Expedition 14, where he also served as mission commander. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the commander of AX-1, Michael Lopez Alegria.
Michael, I want to know what the first time the feeling was when you got outside of the space shuttle. What was that feeling like?
You know, most astronauts that have been to space will talk about the overview effect. Basically, it's a change in perspective. You know, these experiences are really unique. So I'm trying not to set expectations for the crew because I really want them to have their own interpretation of what it's like.
American spaceflight record set by former NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria.
215 days in space, 213 of which were on the International Space Station.
In 2004, I was assigned to fly a long-duration mission to the ISS. My two crewmates on the Soyuz would be a cosmonaut and then a spaceflight participant. And I wasn't too keen with that idea. And the few weeks that I spent training with her and the 10 or so days I spent on orbit with her completely changed my view. It has been a complete 180-degree change of direction. And I went from refusing the Kool-Aid to pouring the Kool-Aid.
The thing about LA that's special is his patience and his skill, competence, his trustworthiness. He's well suited to be a commander of any space mission.
AX-1 is the first private mission to the International Space Station. We are setting the standard for all future human spaceflight to the ISS, and we take that obligation very, very seriously. Our guys have been training for months, and they're trying to get a lot done, especially when it comes to scientific experiments and outreach. But I want them to really enjoy the experience, and I want them to come home with a big smile on their face. SpaceX training, it's like being a kid in a candy store. A new vehicle, love the human interface with it. It's a really exciting and inspiring place.
I mean, he's feeling nostalgia already. Just by going through the training process and being back in the business of preparing for a space flight, it's something I know he's enjoying thoroughly.
I've been involved with Axiom, which started out literally as a handful of people in 2016 to where it is today. I really tip my cap to all of the people here at Axiom.
Hey, boss, don't screw up.
I'm Michael Lopez Alegria, and I'm the commander of AX-1.
Larry Connor is Axiom 1's pilot. Larry's experience in piloting over 16 types of aircraft and multiple deep ocean dives sets him well for this role aboard AX-1. While on board, Larry will conduct numerous experiments in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic. Here's a closer look at Larry Connor.
Well, Larry, I always start with the big, broad question, why?
Well, it's a big opportunity and a big challenge.
And you're no stranger to extreme activities, right?
Well, I don't classify them as extreme activities. I understand other people would.
Larry is an entrepreneur and nonprofit activist investor. Larry Connor will be the pilot for that mission.
The pilot is the person who is there to be equally technically proficient as the commander and back them up.
My pilot, Larry Connor, American businessman, he comes across as a no-nonsense guy. The words I would use to describe him are focused, organized, driven, and he's a real team player.
I was really clear to Axiom right from the beginning. I didn't want to be a space tourist. I didn't want to go up there and sit. This was an opportunity not only to do exploring, but hopefully make a difference.
Well, Larry and the other astronauts are doing a couple of sets of studies, the one with respect to heart function, the other with respect to these fundamental aging processes. And the insights that we will get could help a lot of people with a lot of conditions, from childhood cancer survivors through to Alzheimer's disease. One of the things that Larry has been doing is he's been incredibly generous with helping support clinical trials, determining once and for all whether some of these interventions work.
Our goal and our hope is to try to help revolutionize how we think about and how we serve and how we help people.
He wants to do a good job. He's putting in the efforts to support his crewmates and just, make an example of what private spaceflight could be.
I just wish the world were filled with people like him. He's generous and thoughtful, and I just can't think of enough positive things to say about him.
You have to recognize all of the people up and down the line. They've simply been exceptional. We've got a really talented, committed, resilient group of individuals. Amazing things really are possible.
Hi, I'm Larry Connor, and I'm the pilot on AX-1.
Now coming to Eytan Stibbe. Serving as mission specialist, Eytan has a significant mission ahead of him in terms of objectives, as we talked with Christian earlier about. Working with the Ramon Foundation and the Israel Space Agency at the Ministry of Science and Technology, Eytan will be focusing on everything from genetic diagnostics to arts and science outreach. Here's a closer look at Eytan's story.
Tell me, what was your first spark to want to fly?
That's an interesting question. As a kid, I would close my eyes and dream that I was flying like Superman that I saw on TV. Actually, I went to sleep every night in this position. F-16 is a beautiful aircraft. It gives the pilot a feeling of freedom in the 3D. You just look at somewhere and pull the stick and the aircraft performs what you wish.
He has this inner drive. You see it shine or spark when he's exposed to new cultures. My dad has been, in the last decade, his heart has been into impact investments to create infrastructure and to help communities.
The Rakia mission was built in the same manner to draw on the curiosity associated with human space travel, to conduct a wide range of experiments, educational studies, and even artistic activities. ראינו שחקר החלל מגרה את כל החושים, מעורר סקרנות, אפילו מאתגר את הדמיון הפרוע ביותר.
Rakia patch. It has Rakia written on it in English, Hebrew, and Arabic, and one dot up above for the memory of Ilan Ramon.
Even though Israel is a technological country, space is something that ignites a curiosity. It's unreachable, it's far away. One of my objectives in the mission is to change the sentiment in Israel about human space flight, to inspire children to look up to the sky and imagine things that are not possible and try to reach them.
Engines full power. Lift off.
The thrust of Falcon 9 is like 2 squadrons of F-16s in full afterburner. That power is incredible. I sat inside the simulator of the Dragon, looked up and imagined how that would feel.
I think it's going to be the most beautiful thing in the world, seeing this literally take off and seeing all the ideas and all the effort that has been done come to life. It's going to be beautiful.
There is an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I'm happy that so many Israeli entities and people can join this effort. My name is Eytan Stibbe. I'm a mission specialist on AX-1.
Mark Pathy is one of AX-1's mission specialists. A longtime philanthropist, Mark will be working with the Canadian Space Agency as well as Montreal Children's Hospital to conduct a number of experiments on vital organ monitoring, ocular health, and pain management. Let's hear a little more from Mark.
In your mind, as you're driving at the pad site, would you have a drive-up song?
To get to that moment where I'm sitting in the seat, buckled in, and that countdown's beginning.
3, 2, 1.
I imagine what it's going to feel like physically in terms of lifting off from the surface of the Earth. It's hard for it to always seem completely real. Then a whole other chapter opens and a whole other adventure begins.
I'm very excited to start my training. Been waiting for a long time. The anticipation's been killing me. Now here we are today. I'm ready.
As a proud Canadian, it was important to me to really highlight Canadian universities and Canadian research institutions and to give opportunities to those researchers and those organizations that they might not otherwise have.
Mark was entirely committed to developing this mission as a scientific mission. And the theme of the mission was caring for the planet, caring for its people. We're going to be testing new technologies that can help us explore space, staying longer and going farther, but more importantly, can help change our lives here on Earth.
There'll be a lot of physical and psychological studies that I'll be participating in up there. A lot of the research that I'm undertaking involves using me as a lab rat, because that's the best way I can contribute. A lot of what one experiences in space in terms of inflammation, in terms of pain, psychological feelings of isolation, those are things that affect sick kids. To me, I would like to think that I'll leave this world a better place than I found it.
The crew is setting a high standard for private astronauts in the future because they're dedicated to science, they're dedicated to the mission, they're able to learn all these objectives, they are building in educational outreach. It's really exciting watching this come together.
I'm very excited to work with you to complete your science experiments and your educational outreach when you get on board ISS.
We know you guys are prepared, and we'll be supporting you here from Mission Control in Houston.
There's a lot of people, some that I know and many that I don't, that deserve my appreciation and thanks and gratitude for getting me here. I'm Mark Pathy, and I'm a mission specialist on AX-1.
We're currently T-minus 1 hour, 36 minutes, 27 seconds. As the Axiom 1 crew awaits its 11:17:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time liftoff from Launch Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Now, currently, as you see a little bit on the left there, the crew is inside the Dragon capsule. We closed the side hatch a little bit earlier. We began the 5-minute leak check. We stopped that. They saw a little bit of a leak, and they reopened the hatch starting about 12 minutes ago. You can see they're getting ready to close the hatch again. They cleaned the seal off. Nothing significant noted, but give it a good wipe. We're closing up, and then we'll try to repeat the leak check here very shortly. Once we get through that, we're also waiting to hear the crew perform communications checks with the Falcon ground team. That'll be a checkout with some of the responsible engineers who you'll also hear during the ascent calling out status, propulsion engineer, avionics engineer, guidance, nav, and control, as well as chief engineer. Earlier, we did have the communications checks with the Dragon team. We heard that going through a variety of routes. That would be the umbilical, the radio frequency transmitters, and of course the NASA TDRS satellite up in geosynchronous orbit. So currently the weather, when we get a view of the pad, the weather continues to be go for launch, as well as any contingencies. For example, if a launch escape was required during ascent, weather conditions in the Atlantic Ocean off of the eastern seaboard of the U.S. as we head northeast towards the space station, those conditions are go. The upper altitude winds for Falcon 9 as we steer through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, those also look good right now. And of course, contingency splashdown locations that we would use in case the crew had to come back down out of orbit, they're also looking good. Now, coming up in about 35 minutes, that's when things start to get active on Falcon 9. We'll begin the fuel bleed in on the Merlin engines, let a little bit of propellant onto the vehicle, bleed it through the engines. That's getting them ready for the ignition sequence inside of T-minus 2 seconds. And of course, as we said, the Dragon team, the advanced team that's on the pad, they have to repeat the side hatch leak check. Good news is we've still got time in the schedule, and we have seen this before if you've been with us on one of the crew missions. We also had a leak where we had to reopen the hatch, clean the seal, close it up, and then it passed. But that advanced team, once we get through that and we finish putting on the last covers for flight, deflate some of the seals, and get ready to get out of the pad, they'll leave the pad area and the crew access arm at T-minus 1 hours. Also, a little bit earlier, we did a launch escape system checkout on Dragon. That came at about T-minus 1 hour and 52 minutes. It's mostly just checking all the telemetry of the systems that are required in the launch escape safety system. Everything checked out well, and that's a standard part of the launch countdown. It's critical to make sure that everything is in working order.
We are closing the side hatch again, and we'll step into the next round of side hatch leak checks.
And we've heard the call out. You can see the advanced team. They're closing the hatch. Looks like they're torquing up to the required load. We then begin a pressurization sequence for a few minutes, and then we hold it for 5 minutes. And then, fingers crossed, we'll get a successful leak check. We'll get into the communications checkouts and proceed on to the T-minus 1 hour and countdown to an on-time launch. But right now, Kate, John, everything continues to look good out of pad 39A.
We have to recommence the health checks for the launch escape system with the second hatch closure. Expect a momentary flight computer state change. Copy, Arthur, standing by.
And one other update, you just heard the launch escape health checks. Those are the ones I said that we did about 20 minutes ago. You do them as you close the hatch. Now that we open it up, we close it again. They'll repeat that checkout. That just takes a minute to verify all the telemetry on the launch escape systems are still within specification. So everything continuing to go well at 39A, other than working through a second hatch leak check. Fingers crossed that we'll see an on-time launch at 11:17:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time.
So as John and I said, we have, we're now in the process of redoing the side hatch closure and leak check. So the team saw a little bit of loss of pressurization whenever we were conducting that leak check. Not a huge deal, just reopen it. They wiped down the seal itself, didn't really know anything significant. So now they have reclosed it, and we're now reperforming that leak check. The crew remains seated and comfortable there on the right-hand side of your screen inside Dragon Endeavour.
Yeah. Well, as we wait for that, you know, I wanted to talk about a bit, like, a major objective of this mission is outreach and, you know, getting more people interested in spaceflight, but more importantly, finding ways to connect us together. And some of the best ways to do that are through art and shared experiences with art. So for this mission, we asked artist Michael Kagan, known for his space-themed artwork, to create an exclusive new piece that commemorates the AX-1 mission. And he created the spacewalker that you see on your screen there. So this digital asset can be enjoyed as an augmented reality spacewalker that anyone can check out and play with. And here's how it works. I got to play with this a little bit yesterday. It's pretty cool. But we'll have a QR code for everyone at home to scan with your phone, and the spacewalker will become an AR model on your phone that you can play with. You can adjust the scale and position it as you want, rather, and then snap a photo with it wherever that spacewalker is. It's actually pretty fun. I got to kind of play around with them. We walked around here a little bit and popped the spacewalker over there and took a photo of it. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so at home, we'd love to see what you can do with it. So be sure to tag any posts with the hashtag AX1. That is AX and the number 1.
Yeah, I personally, I'm not really into NFTs, but that is beautiful.
Yeah.
This might be what gets me in.
Yeah. So as you said, that's not it, right? We're taking this one step further with the goal of encouraging people all over the world to have some fun with this mission. We are announcing that the AX-1 crew is going to mint the Spacewalker as an NFT from space. So for all of those NFT collectors out there, the Axiom Nft Marketplace is launching right now. And over the course of this mission, it will feature digital artwork, just like Michael Kagan's Spacewalker there, associated with this historic mission. So if you'd like to join, the website is nft.axiomspace.com, and it is going live right now. So we'll be announcing the live auction for the Spacewalker NFT during the mission. So be sure to visit nft.axiomspace.com for more info over the coming days. And that's where you're going to find the QR code to the augmented reality Spacewalker. So again, head to nft.axiomspace.com, scan the QR code, go have some fun, play with the Spacewalker, put them wherever you want, and have a blast with them.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So just a quick check-in. You can see there Falcon 9 remains on the pad. We are continuing to count down to our liftoff at just under 1 hour and 30 minutes from now. As you can see on the right-hand side, the crew are in their seats, and the team on the left is conducting the leak check of that side hatch. For those of you that have just joined us recently, we did attempt to close the side hatch earlier, closed it, but when we performed that leak check initially, saw a very small loss of pressure there. So we reopened it, and then the teams wiped down the seal, inspected it. Didn't really know anything major, so closed it back up, and we're now performing that leak check once again. The process for that is basically we inflate the seal that is around the side hatch, and we leave it inflated for 5 minutes. We monitor that pressurization, and once it holds that pressure for 5 minutes, we get the green light.
Yeah, and as John and I mentioned earlier too, it's not uncommon for things like this to happen, and that's why we have checks in place, and we have things like verifying end items, and it's a huge part of what the ground control team here plays is, verifying that those leak rates, like what you talked about. Are you holding a leak rate for the right amount of time and at the right pressure, and what does your trending data look like? So, it's all part of the huge network of teammates on the ground that are supporting the mission and just making sure that every step along the way is safe. And
Dragon SpaceX for post-ingress briefing.
Go ahead, Arthur.
All right, MLA. While we continue through the side hatch leak check, it continues to look like a great day to fly. Dragon, Falcon, and 39 Alpha all look good to fly. Systems are nominal, and we have no deltas to the pre-briefed emergency deorbit sites.
That's about as good as a report we can ask for, thanks.
I concur with that. And for awareness, we will be stepping into Falcon 9 operator Comm Check shortly.
Copy.
All right, that voice that you just heard was Arthur Berrialt, our SpaceX core, who basically is the primary communicator between the teams here on the ground and the crew. Really important role because, for us, we can see what's going on. We've got the views here, but think about it for the crew. They can't really see what's on the other side of that side hatch. So important updates there to keep them informed. That being said,
Dragon, GNC will begin the Falcon 9 operator comm check with you at this point. Go ahead, GNC.
Dragon, GNC on countdown 1, comm check.
You're live and clear, Cyrus. How many?
GNC loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by propulsion engineer.
Dragon, prop on countdown 1, comm check.
Prop, Endeavor, you're loud and clear, Charles.
Prop, loud and clear. Stand by for comm check with the avionics engineer.
Dragon, avionics on countdown 1, comm check.
Avionics, Endeavor, good morning, call.
Avionics, loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the ground segment engineer.
Dragon, ground segment on countdown 1, comm check.
Loud and clear, Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, ground segment has you loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by launch control.
Dragon, launch control on countdown 1, comm check.
Launch control, Endeavor, you're loud and clear.
Launch control, loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the chief engineer.
Dragon, comm check from chief engineer.
Good morning, Chief Engineer. This is Endeavor. You're loud and clear.
This completes the Falcon 9 responsible engineering comm checks. Godspeed.
Thank you.
All right, there you just heard the completion of the Comm Checks. Basically, the ground teams, the various leads for the ground systems here, going around and making sure that the communication pathway to the crew is clear, loud and clear, as you heard them say. Voices that we heard there included SpaceX Corps Arthur Berrialt, the chief engineer for this mission, Bill Gerstenmayer, and yeah, just around the horn for those comm checks with the crew. On the left-hand side of your screen, just a quick check-in. The team there is performing the recheck, or excuse me, yeah, the recheck for that side hatch closure. So we did attempt to close the side hatch and perform a leak check, and we saw just a very slight loss of pressure during that leak check. So we opened it back up, wiped it down. Teams didn't know anything major when they inspected it. So now we've reclosed it, and we are reperforming that leak check, which includes basically getting it up to pressurization or pressure 3 minutes, and then holding it at that pressure for 5 minutes. So right now we're in that 5-minute wait period. So, you know, as you can tell for the crew, it's a lot of waiting. It's we do this and now we wait, and now we do this and then we wait.
Hurry up and wait, as they say. Yeah, and Kate, as you mentioned, and as we heard, you know, on the concurrently while we're doing that that repress and recheck, you know, we are also trying to concurrently perform those comm checks, right, and gain some time back as well. So crew, as they're in their vehicle waiting, you know, they're still on track for their mission, right? They're still zeroed in on exactly what they've got to do, exactly how they can provide assistance in providing and following their procedures and working with the ground teams to stay on track
for sure. And it's worth noting, you know, we do build margin into the timeline for this exact reason. If you followed our human spaceflight missions before, sometimes you hear the Corps indicate that we have X amount of minutes of margin. So yeah, for this exact reason, you know, we do build in that margin. And as I said earlier, you know, the countdown itself is what aligns all the various teams working to support the launch on the same timeline. So it's what makes sure that everybody syncs up. And so allowing us to, you know, perform those comm checks while doing the repress and recheck, you know, just making sure that all those teams are continuing to remain aligned.
Yeah. You know, I think during this, you know, waiting period too, crew is sitting there thinking about not only what do I have to do today, you know, right now, like I'm waking up and I'm getting my suit checked out. There's steps all along the way, and I can only imagine how they're thinking about what their mission is ahead of them, right? All of the work that we've heard that they're trying to accomplish on orbit, their objectives, you know, they're sitting there thinking, how can I be the most effective I can be over the next 8 days, right? And so I'm just thinking about the things that they're bringing up there with them, right? Little mementos that they're bringing up there with them. We heard some interesting things, you know, during their pre-briefing last week. Certain tokens and mementos of home that they're bringing up and what that means to them. That all plays a part of this mission. What kind of keeps them going through these waiting periods, you know, thinking about what am I going to do up there? What does this mean to me? What does it mean to the people back home? And they're just ready to get up there and start working towards those objectives.
So we're continuing to monitor the recheck of that side hatch closure. The team is performing that leak check now. Should be wrapping that up pretty soon. Once we get the leak check confirmed.
Dragon SpaceX, good side hatch leak check.
Good news, Arthur, thanks.
All right, great news there.
Fantastic.
You might have heard some clapping here.
Yeah.
I should mention, you know, John and I here located at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I actually hear some beeping now. We are a live operations environment here in the rocket factory. So we're 1 hour and 18, just over 1 hour and 18 minutes until launch, and we're starting to see people gather and really, the excitement is starting to build, and just hearing the confirmation that that leak check was good, that side hatch is going to stay closed. The crew is, I think at that moment, as I mentioned before, the seat rotation, that's an exciting moment because it's like, it's like you're locked into the roller coaster and, here we go. And now hearing that that side hatch is good, it's closed, and it's going to remain closed until they splash back down. So when the crew ingresses and egresses from the space station, they will use the forward hatch. So that side hatch now will remain closed until they return to Earth after splashdown.
Right, that's a huge step forward in today's launch. So, in addition to the scope of the science and research and outreach being performed on this mission, AX-1 is also taking some time to better understand the role that food plays on orbit. A partner on this mission and a good friend of Axiom Space is Chef Jose Andres and the team at Think Food Group. Known for his visionary culinary creations and humanitarian efforts, Chef Jose's World Central Kitchen is doing important work helping to feed those who are displaced.
Chef Jose also prepared the meals and snacks accompanying our crew to the ISS. In space, astronauts have limited kitchen equipment and ingredients on hand, so having already prepared meals that are both appetizing and comforting is a great way to feel connected to home.
Right, so joining us now is Chef Charisse Gray, who you saw in that video, Director for Research and Development at Think Food Group. Chef, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Chef, clearly Think Food Group is doing instrumental work in bringing people together with food, and has for a long time. What has been your team's mantra or ethos when it comes to creating these new dishes?
Well, at Think Food Group, our mission is to change the world through the power of food. And that's why we're so incredibly proud to partner with Axiom Space to have created the meals for the AX-1 multinational crew headed to the International Space Station. As Chef Jose Andres often talks about building longer tables, this is such an extraordinary opportunity to do just that, bringing together the hardworking AX-1 crew through food, reaching all the way to space.
So, as a partner on AX-1, the culinary teams at Think Food Group have developed a meal to be shared amongst the crew in space on the space station. What did you put together?
So, the partner on the food mission was born on a friendship between Chef Jose and fellow Spaniard and veteran astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, the commander of the upcoming mission. And as a result, we really wanted to lean on the flavors and traditional dishes of their native Spain. So we've made secreto de cerdo with pisto, which is a prized cut of Iberico pork with tomatoes, onions, eggplant, and peppers. And the second meal is chicken and mushroom paella. Paella is, Spain's quintessential rice dish, and the AX-1 crew will be able to enjoy also along with that some Spanish jamon, salchichon, and Marcona almonds.
Super cool. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the significance of those choices?
We wanted to be sure that we created meals that were not only nutrient-rich, but satisfying and really delicious. Unlike, traditional ready-to-eat meals that are designed for quick consumption. As chefs, we understand the importance of really, bold and memorable flavors, and created food that you'd really want to eat anywhere in the world, or in this case, out of this world.
Exactly right. So what were some of the challenges that you faced in trying to prepare those meals for out of this world?
To make meals that are going to be traveling, for over 250 miles away, and, putting in the forefront really crew member safety, they had to be very carefully prepared. And so the AX-1 crew meals were thermostabilized through the retort process.
Now, your teams also put together a set of snacks that the crew is taking with them to enjoy at various points on their journey to the ISS. We were fortunate enough to receive a few of those extra packets, and we'd love to share a snack together with you. What do we have here?
So you're holding one of the pouches of the actual meals. Let me see what you've got there. It looks like you might have got the pisto or the rice.
I think I have the Valencia rice with chicken.
Yes.
And I just spilled it everywhere.
There's the pisto there.
Wow, just immediately the aroma just is strong. It's in a very good way.
Yeah.
It's my mouth is already watering.
Well, and that's
John, what do you have?
Yeah, so I've got the pork stew, and I've got to say the same. The aroma, I think, is really what I would appreciate if I was on orbit and opening this up for the first time. Right? We've heard so much, especially on the crew system side at Axiom, how much aroma plays into just enjoying your meal, and that can go away during your time on orbit. So I think it's a really important aspect to consider when you're preparing meals.
But also, snacks are super important. So, along with those meals, the AX-1 astronauts will also be able to enjoy some really Spanish delicacies such as jamón ibérico de bellota, jamón salchichón from Fermin, Casas de Juelo olive oil, and Marcona almonds by Albert Adria.
This is way better than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, I've got to say, this is amazing, Chef Charisse. Thank you very much for putting this together, and thank you for letting us enjoy it. I was talking earlier about the importance that aroma plays, right, and being able to enjoy your meal. And we've often heard crew members reflect on how there's really just no better way to see a world without borders up there than just simply looking out the window while on orbit and enjoying some time together. So, something as simple as sharing a meal, right, together, but while looking back at home, can really be a pivotal step in coming to that realization together. So thank you very much for putting this together for our crew. Thank you for working with them. And thank you for joining us today and letting us enjoy this together. So we wish you and the Think Food Group as much success as possible, and we look forward to hearing how it turns out on orbit.
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us to be part of such a momentous day.
Thank you for sharing that with us. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well,
after you.
I was going to say, at Axiom, we are hard at work building the next destination in low Earth orbit. And Axiom Station is being designed as a true continuation and evolution of the International Space Station. So much gained over the last 20+ years in orbit. Axiom's goal is to build upon the successes and lessons learned over that time while bridging the gap between the ISS and commercial spaceflight. Ultimately, allowing greater access to that knowledge and capability ensures that humans continue to benefit from time spent in low Earth orbit. Axiom's first private astronaut missions are crucial steps in learning how the relationships between government and private industry can grow and change.
The International Space Station is really an amazing engineering achievement. In the last 21 years, there's been permanent human presence in space. We've slowly progressed from capsules and vehicles that visited for a short time to places like Skylab, where we ultimately did a 90-day mission back in the 70s. Now we're on ISS for a year or more. And now it's time for the next space station.
Axiom Space is about making living and working in space commonplace. The government has forecasted a demand for flying NASA crew members to low Earth orbit to conduct basic research and furtherance of their goals of deep space exploration.
But then we also want to expand what can be done in space. 15 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to be surrounded by objects that we can't live without that we're manufacturing in space.
Today, we are in the process of building our first two elements. We have subsystems in development. We have a full lab of life support hardware that we're putting through its paces. We are building a propulsion system. It's a lot of those details in developing a space station.
The first two modules are being built by our partner, Thales Alenia, and we're heading to what is called CDR, which is a critical design review. That really means that 90% of the design is done, and then you're ready to go to manufacturing. So HAB1 is that first module. It has 4 crew quarters, it has payload accommodations, and it has all of the systems required to keep crew healthy and alive. So the plan is we'll fly 4 separate modules to the ISS. When we arrive with the 4th module, it'll have what we need to be independent of the ISS.
So a lot of thought went into how do we allow it to grow. When we look at the future, we have thoughts on how we could double the number of crew every 5 years.
There's a lot of excitement here about the AX-1 mission. Everyone understands that it's a very historic mission. We are just so excited to be part of that and having our people enable this historic moment.
The AX-1 mission provides us the opportunity to refine our flight techniques and operations concepts in order to meet the higher complexity of operating a space station in orbit. That moment where we're captured and birthed to the International Space Station will be a moment that defines how we move forward as a species in low Earth orbit. This will be really the first time a fully commercial element has been part of the complex.
Axiom Station is going to allow humanity to be a multi-planet species. When we pull that off, we change the world.
And speaking of growing and expanding opportunities in low Earth orbit, this Axiom mission adds to a story that began in 2003. In Israel, Eytan Stibbe is not just becoming the second Israeli astronaut in the country's history, but he is following on the legacy of Ilan Ramon. For Israel, this is a mission of peace and hope, and they have called this mission Rakia, which is a word that means the heavens or firmament in English. So to tell us a little bit more about the Rakia mission, we send you now to our good friends in Tel Aviv, Israel, who are actively monitoring today's launch efforts.
Thank you, John and Kate, and thank you for joining us here at the Rakia headquarters in Tel Aviv. I'm Omri Doron, and together with me is the Israeli team of Rakia and its partners who have worked day and night to make this mission possible. Now, all joined together for this exciting launch of AX-1 to the International Space Station. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis are watching us from their homes. In Israel, we're at a very exciting moment. For the first time in 19 years, and for only the second time in our nation's history, one of our own will be in space again, Israeli astronaut Eytan Stibbe. Eytan is dedicating his journey to the Rakia mission. And what that means is that his time in space will be devoted to fulfilling the innovative ideas and creative dreams that were chosen by the people of Israel for Rakia. Every part of this Rakia mission has been developed in Israel with the goal to be impactful and innovative. For an Israeli child, this will be the first time to hear Hebrew lessons and demonstrations on the ISS. For Israeli scientists, artists, and educators, this will be a rare opportunity to perform their works in the unique microgravity environment with a home-trained astronaut. This will contribute greatly to international and Israeli research industries. Now, during the next 10 days, thousands will visit this venue and get to know the story of Rakia and AX-1. Here, our Rakia Mission Control Center will provide a unique opportunity for visitors to see behind the scenes of human spaceflight throughout Eytan Stibbe's Rakia mission. It is our hope that those who follow Eytan on his journey understand that the Rakia mission promotes professional collaborations and manifests values of peace, innovation, social responsibility, and sustainability. It strives to connect the people of Israel and the world to these values and inspire dreams of possibility, because no dream is beyond reach. Now, as we close from Tel Aviv, I'd like to present a short movie that will further highlight the significant efforts of the Rakia mission.
Just in case you find yourself leading an inspiring mission to space, here's a packing list that might help. You start with the basics. Ever-expanding dreams. Respect for borders mixed with utter disregard for them. Dozens of wishes. A poem. Your favorite soundtrack. Your biggest hopes. A hunger for miracles. Endless amounts of innovations, like brainwave measuring device, groundbreaking blood test through capillaries, and laughing in the face of lenses manufacturing capabilities. A new outlook on storms. An entire platform that pushes science forward, because there is no I in space. Dreams to be realized. Tips from friends who showed you the way. Two ounces of inspiration. Your inner child. Because the one thing that's more important than to travel light is to make sure travel enlightens an entire generation. Thousands of schools that joined the mission. Your nation's brightest young inquisitive minds. A sense of humor. A prayer just in case. A few words of wisdom. 306,757 to be exact. And another 4 to be exact. Amazing partners, local and foreign. And a big thank you to those who made it possible, or just a big. Kia. There is no dream beyond reach.
We're just over 63 minutes away from launch. Everything continues to go well out at Pad 39A for the Axiom 1 mission flight to the International Space Station. Right now, Falcon 9 team is in the middle of the fuel bleed through the Merlin engines. That's going well. We've also done checkouts on the first and second stages. We're doing some final data checks. That's also looking good. Up on the Dragon capsule, you can see the crew access arm. The seal from the White Room has actually been deflated. You can see it's pulled away a little bit. We're getting ready for the advanced team to leave the pad at about T-minus 1 hour. So they're on track right now to close out. We did have a good side hatch leak check. And so we're doing just the very last steps to get the capsule ready for flight and then leave the pad. And of course, in the background, as you can see on the monitors or on your screens, it's blue skies over Kennedy Space Center, Pad 39A. Weather's looking good, both in the local area, as well as when we head northeast towards the space station, the ascent trajectory looks good. So at T-minus 1 hour and 2 minutes, all systems are go.
All right, well, you're looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft that is in the final stages of preparation to launch the world's first all-private astronaut mission to the International Space Station in just over 1 hour from now. Today's launch marks the next step in evolution of the human spaceflight story. This is the first of a number of planned private astronaut missions, or PAMs, by Axiom Space to the International Space Station, and it represents the culmination of years of hard work between both government and private entities to open up the doors to low Earth orbit. My name is John Rackham, and I am the Crew Systems Deputy Manager at Axiom Space, based out of Houston, Texas.
For awareness, we are cycling orbit tank isolation valves to equalize low flow pressure.
All right, just some back and forth there between the crew and the core. My name is Kate Tice. I'm the Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. With our coverage now expanding to NASA television, I'd like to welcome friend from NASA, Dan Hewitt, coming to us from Johnson Space Center over at Houston, Texas. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Kate, great to see you and the Johns. We're excited to join and get this milestone mission off the ground.
ערב טוב וברוכים הבאים. שמי מירב ואני מנהלת את משימת רקיע. זהו ערב מאוד מרגש עבור כולנו, אך הוא מהול בעצב. ולפני הכל אני רוצה לומר בשמי ובשם כל צוות משימת רקיע שאנחנו משתתפים בצער משפחות הנרצחים בפיגוע אתמול בתל אביב ומאחלים החלמה מהירה לפצועים. אחרי רצף של דחיות, הנה זה קורה. אנחנו נמצאים היום במתחם משימת רקיע שבמשרדי ענקית הסייבר הישראלית, צ'ק פוינט, וזאת הזדמנות להגיד תודה על שיתוף הפעולה והאירוח הנעים. הפעם האחרונה שבה אסטרונאוט ישראלי המריא לחלל הייתה לפני 19 שנה. אני זוכרת איך אז הסתכלנו כולנו לעבר השמיים והרגשנו כיצד הם נעשים קצת יותר קרובים. חשנו שהאפשרות להגיע לשם ולגלות עולמות חדשים קצת פחות רחוקה. אני חושבת שלא היה אדם אחד במדינת ישראל שלא חש התרוממות רוח כשמעבורת החלל קולומביה המריאה לחלל. וזאת בזכות הניצחון על כוחות הכבידה, הפיזיקליים והאנושיים, והניצחון של האמונה שאם רק רוצים אפשר לעשות את הבלתי אפשרי. כל אלה נתנו לנו השראה אדירה לצמוח, להתפתח ולחלום בגדול. מי שמוביל את מרוץ הישראלי לחלל החל מחינוך הדור הבא ועד למתן הפתרונות הטכנולוגיים המתקדמים ביותר הוא משרד החדשנות, המדע והטכנולוגיה. באמצעות סוכנות החלל הישראלית, השותפים שלנו מתחילת הדרך. אני שמחה להזמין את שרת החדשנות, המדע והטכנולוגיה, אורית פרקש הכהן.
שלום לכולם, ואני מאוד שמחה להיות כאן. ערב קשה עבר לכולנו אתמול, ואני משתתפת בצער משפחות הנרצחים, תומר מורד ואיתם מגיני, זיכרונם לברכה. מאחלת החלמה מהירה לפצועים. כוחות הביטחון ימשיכו לפעול מסביב לשעון על מנת לעצור את הטרור, אבל הטרור לעולם לא ינצח אותנו ולא ינצח את הרוח של ההצלחה הישראלית. אף אחד לא יעצור את הרוח הזו, והמעמד היום הוא מעמד כזה. לפני 19 שנים, בתוך שבועיים, אזרחי ישראל עצרו פעמיים את נשימתם. הפעם הראשונה הייתה כשמעבורת החלל קולומביה ואילן רמון, זיכרונו לברכה, כאסטרונאוט ישראלי בתוכה שוגרה למרומים. לא היה גבול להתרגשותנו. הפעם השנייה הייתה ברגע חזרתה של המעבורת לאטמוספירה של כדור הארץ. התפרקות הקולומביה ומותם הטרגי של 7 אסטרונאוטים שהרכיבו את צוותה. כל אלה הסבו לנו כאב עמוק. זאת הייתה טרגדיה פרטית של משפחת רמון הנפלאה, אבל זו הייתה גם טרגדיה לאומית. אילן רמון, זיכרונו לברכה, ייצג את העם היהודי ואת הרוח הישראלית של נחישות וערכיות ואת מדינת ישראל. הוא רומם את רוחנו, גרם לגאווה גדולה לכולנו, חדר לליבנו וזכרו תמיד שמור איתנו. הבטחנו לעצמנו שמשימתו מעוררת ההשראה לא תיקטע, שהמסע לחלל יימשך בתנופה, ובחלוף 19 שנה איננו הרואות שכך קורה. הרבה בזכות קרן רמון והעוסקים בה ומשפחת רמון, שמקנה לדור הצעיר ערכים של מצוינות, תעוזה ומנהיגות. אלו הם הערכים שמייצגים יותר מכל את אילן, אסף ורונה רמון, זיכרונם לברכה. היום אנחנו יכולים לומר להם, יש שכר לפעולתכם, יש גמול לעשייתכם. היום נפתחים אופקים חדשים, אופקים מרגשים, בפני האנושות ומדינת ישראל. במשך רוב ההיסטוריה החלל היה בגדר חידה, אבל הוא הופך להיות קרוב יותר ויותר, נגיש לנו, מוכר לנו בני האדם, והפוטנציאל של החלל הוא עצום. כבר עכשיו מיליארדי אנשים משתמשים בו, במישרין ובעקיפין, אפילו בלי לדעת זאת. כי חלל הוא ביטחון, קליטת ערוצי תקשורת, חלופות נהיגה ברכב, ניווט ביבשה, בים ובאוויר, מעקב אחר שינויי אקלים, שמירה על איכות הסביבה, איתור אוצרות טבע ועוד ועוד. מי היו החלוצים בחקר החלל? מעצמות, מדינות ענק כמו ארצות הברית או ברית המועצות לשעבר, וגם ישראל הקטנה הצליחה להצטרף למועדון היוקרתי של מעצמות החלל. עשינו זאת בעזרת כישרון, יצירתיות, שאפתניות, יזמות, חדשנות, וכמובן תעשיית הביטחון של ישראל, וכל התכונות שהופכות את המדינה שלנו לסיפור הצלחה בינלאומי. כזוהי המשימה הנוכחית, משימת רקיע. זוהי משימה שהיא נדבך משמעותי נוסף במהפכת החלל הישראלית והפעם האזרחית. אנו בממשלה ובמשרד החדשנות נרתמנו ליוזמה הזו של קרן רמון, בהשראת המשאלה של רונה רמון זיכרונה לברכה, לנצל את ההזדמנות אנו לכך ולהשתמש בחלל כהשראה וכגשר לדור הצעיר. עשרות הניסויים המדעיים שהתבצעו שם למטה על ידי איתן סטיבה מעבר לאטמוספירה, יוכלו להשיג פריצות דרך חשובות ביותר בשטחי מחקר חיוניים. עשרות הניסויים נבחרו בקפידה על ידי ועדה משותפת של מומחים מהממשלה, מהתעשייה ומהמשרד, מהתעשייה האווירית, והם יבחנו את השפעת החלל עלינו כאן על פני האדמה. תיבחן רפואה, מחקרים על תפקודי מוח, מחקרים בהנדסת חומרים, באופטיקה, בקרינה, במיקרו-כבידה, בתזונה, בחקלאות, באנרגיה ובתקשורת, בהרבה מאוד תחומים. שותפים להם יהיו כל מוסדות האוניברסיטאות שלנו, מהטכניון, מבר אילן, מאוניברסיטת תל אביב, מחברות סטארט-אפ, מעוד מיזמים רבים ושונים, וגם מהשוק הפרטי. הניסויים הללו יחסכו שנות מחקר רבות למאות חוקרים, מחברות, מגופים ומבתי חולים ברחבי ישראל. פיתוח טכנולוגיות חדישות יסייעו לשיווק מוצרים ולהאיץ אף יותר את תעשיית ההייטק והחלל בארץ ובעולם. אבל זה לא רק זה, לכל אלה הצטרפו פעילויות חינוכיות שתועברנה בשידור חי מן החלל לרבבות תלמידים ותלמידות ברחבי המדינה, כחול לבן. אנשים רבים ממשרד החינוך ואנשי חינוך רבים היו שותפים לשליחות הזו ולתכנון הפעילויות הזו, וגם תלמידים מצטיינים משלנו הגו ויזמו אתגרים שיבחנו בחלל. יהיו ניסויים מדעיים בחלל, ובפעם הראשונה יועברו שיעורים בשפה העברית מתחנת החלל הבינלאומית. הם יעודדו יצירתיות ויזמות בקרב הדור הצעיר שלנו. כולכם בטח יודעים ששוק החלל גדל בצורה אקספוננציאליות, עם השקעות ענק שמכפילות את עצמן בעשור האחרון ובעשור הקרוב, ומשרדי פועל כדי להזניק קדימה את תחום החלל האזרחי, ולא רק הביטחוני. אני גם שמחה על שיתוף הפעולה שנרקם בינינו לבין מדינות ערב בחקר החלל בעקבות הסכמי אברהם, וגם זהו גשר מאוד משמעותי בין המדינות שהולך ומתחזק. לפני חצי שנה ביקרתי בדובאי כדי לחתום על הסכם חלל תקדימי עם איחוד האמירויות, שפתח שער לא רק לשיתוף פעולה מדיני, אלא גם לחברות אמיצה בין סוכנות החלל הישראלית לסוכנות החלל האמירתית, עם יוזמות לא רק מדעיות, אלא גם כאלה שמתוכננות לחבר בין ילדי ישראל לילדי האמירויות. החלל הוא נכס אסטרטגי וגשר מופלא לשלום. באמצעות הידע הזה שאנו חולקים עם ידידינו החדשים, נמריא יחד לגבהים. אני מבקשת להודות לכל מי שלוקח חלק במשימת רקיעה בחוץ לארץ, בארץ ובחלל, לשותפינו הרבים, כמובן בראש ובראשונה למשרדי ולמנהלי ושותפי קרן רמון. תודה מיוחדת למשפחת רמון שנציגיה נמצאים באתר השיגור ובטח מאוד מתרגשים. אין לי ספק שהאירוע הזה יטביע חותם להרבה זמן, ואני מקווה שבמיוחד על ילדים ונוער שהם העתיד שלנו והם עתודת מגלי החלל בדורות הבאים. שלאיתן סטיבה היקר אני מאחלת שיצא בשלום וישוב בשלום, ושיהיה סופה שקט ונעים לכולנו. תודה רבה.
תודה לשרה. לפני כשנה, איתן סטיבה הגשים לנו חלום, והציג למדינה הזדמנות נהדרת לנצל את שהותו בתחנת החלל הבינלאומית, כדי לקדם את המדע, החינוך והאומנות בישראל. רצינו להביא את החלום של החלל אל החברה הישראלית כולה, ובייחוד אל הדור הבא של החולמים, הילדים שלנו. וכך יצאנו ביחד למסע מופלא ומרתק, מסע של למידה, של ניסוי וטעייה, של שותפות אמת. במסע הזה שערך שנה שלמה, בנינו ביחד עם איתן את משימת רקיעה בחלל, המשימה שבעוד דקות ספורות תצא לדרך. מתוך אסון קולומביה האסון שבו איבדנו את אילן רמון. חלום החלל הישראלי צמח והתעצם. אלמנתו רונה, זכרה לברכה, הקימה את קרן רמון, ברוחם ובדמותם של אילן ואסף. הקרן שהפכה למנוע אדיר של יוזמות מדעיות וחינוכיות. לפני כ3 שנים נפרדנו מרונה, והיא השאירה את הקרן בירושה ובצוואה לחלום ולהגשים. קרן רמון מובילה את משימת רקיע. אני רוצה להזמין את רן לבנה, מי שעומד בראש הקרן בשנים האחרונות ומוביל במקצועיות את העשייה המופלאה של קרן רמון. בבקשה.
נעדכן שאנחנו 45 דקות לפני שיגור, וממש לפני 20 שניות שמענו את מנהל השיגור מטעם ספייסיקס נותן את ההנחיות האחרות. 4 דברים מוכנים, המשגר, החללית, הצוות ומזג האוויר, וכנראה שיהיה לנו שיגור לחלל בעוד 45 דקות. אנחנו דיברנו קודם הצוות של הקרן וחשבתי המון על רונה. לא הייתה פגישה אחת שלנו עם שר המדע או מנכ"ל חדש של סוכנות חלל ישראלית שהיא לא אמרה חייבים לשלוח ישראלי לחלל. יש המון ילדים, זה 19 שנה מאז האסון של הקולומביה, כל הילדים במערכת החינוך בישראל לא חוו מה זה ישראלי שנמצא בחלל. 19 שנה יזמים, מהנדסים וחוקרים חיכו לידיים ישראליות שהם יוכלו לדבר איתם, שיבצעו את הניסויים שלהם. וכשרונה, בשורות הראשונות כאן יושבים עובדי קרן רמון, כשרונה עזבה אותנו, אנחנו ככה לא ידענו איך ממשיכים, והיום הזה הוא יום שהוא מאושר והוא מדהים. רונה מאוד אהבה חלומות, וזה לא סתם שהסיסמה של המשימה הזאת אין חלום רחוק מדי, כי באמת אין חלום רחוק מדי. גם עמותה יכולה לנהל משימת חלל ביחד עם שותפים מדהימים בממשלה ובעולם. איתן, התברכנו בבן אדם ששם את המשימה לפני האסטרונאוט. לכל האורך, החזון שלו שאמר, עזבו שנייה את הבן אדם שעולה לחלל, איך אנחנו מייצרים תוכן, איך אנחנו מייצרים ערך. אם זה מדע, אז איך נייצר פטנטים ומאמרים, ואם זה סטארט-אפים, אז איך נייצר עוד מקומות עבודה בישראל, ואם זה ילדים, איך נייצר חינוך. בנה איתנו צוות שמייצר, האמריקאים אומרים, את משימת החלל הקצרה הכי עשירה במדע, בטכנולוגיה ובחינוך בהיסטוריה. וזאת גאווה גדולה להיות כאן, ושיהיה לנו שיגור בטוח ומוצלח, והמון המון תודה לכולכם.
תודה לרן. תהליך ההכנה לקראת משימה בחלל הוא ארוך, מורכב ויקר. זו הסיבה שבגללה לכל אסטרונאוט שמיועד למשימה בחלל ממנים מחליף שעובר ביחד איתו את כל האימונים וההכשרות, והוא יכול למלא את מקומו בכל רגע. במקרה שלנו, המחליף של איתן סטיבה היא מחליפה, ביתו, דוקטור שיר סטיבה, שבמקביל להתמחות בכירורגיה, עברה איתו את כל האימונים בנאסא ובספייסיקס. במשימת רקיע, הכל עובד כרגע לפי התכנון, ושיר נשארת איתנו כאן על כדור הארץ. אבל רגע לפני ההמראה, שיר רוצה לשתף אותנו בתחושות הישר מקייפ קנברל. בבקשה, שיר.
שלום תל אביב, שלום ישראל. כאן שיר מקייפ קנברל. אין מאחורי עדיין טיל, אבל אנחנו ממש מחוץ לקנדי ספייס סנטר. אנחנו כבר מוכנים עם התגים והכל. הימים האחרונים היו התרגשות גדולה, מעולה בדריכות ומתח ודאגה למה שמתרחש בארץ. אבל הבוקר הזה אצלנו יש שמחה גדולה על זה שהגענו סוף סוף לרגע הזה. אנחנו שולחים המון אהבה לארץ ומרגישים מאוד את החיבוק של כולכם. אז תודה ושיהיה שיגור מוצלח.
זמן ההמראה הולך ומתקרב, אבל לא ניתן לטיל להמריא. לפני שנודה מכל הלב לכל השותפים הרבים של משימת רקיע. אוניברסיטאות, מכוני מחקר, חברות, מוזיאונים, תנועות נוער, בתי ספר וארגוני חינוך מכל הארץ. וכמובן, לאנשי צוות החלומות, שמזה שנה קמים בבוקר והולכים לישון עם משימת רקיע. וכל אחד ואחת מהם שותפים שווים, אהובים ומוערכים. נתחיל עם אלה שלא נמצאים כאן איתנו, ענבל קרייס, יושבת ראש הוועדה המדעית, הדר ורניק, מנהלת התוכנית החינוכית, שחובקת תאומים, ילדה לפני מספר ימים, הייתה איתנו עד קו הסיום, מלודי קורמן, נציגת משימת רקיע שנמצאת ביוסטון, הדס גור אריה, רכזת האומנות במשימת רקיע, ולאנשי הצוות העיקרים שנמצאים כאן איתנו. מעיין הוניג ומאיה שמיט, הרכזות החינוכיות. דוקטור אלירן חמו, מנהל המטען המדעי, רן לבנה, מנכ"ל קרן רמון, אודי אדלמן, עוצר פרויקט האומנות. תודה מיוחדת לאיתן, אורה, עמית ויואב, שיר, על שרתמו וסחפו את כולנו למשימה האדירה הזאת. מיד אעביר את המיקרופון לרן, שנמצא בחדר הבקרה, הוא ילווה אותנו במשדר השיגור.
ערב טוב לכולם, למשדר בעברית של השיגור. אנחנו נמצאים עוד מעט 13 דקות לפני השיגור. 45 דקות לפני השיגור הודיע המהנדס הראשי של SpaceX באתר בפוד 39A שהצוות מוכן, המשגר מוכן, החללית מוכנה ומזג האוויר נראה טוב, ואנחנו התחילו בהכנות לשיגור. בשלב הזה התחילו למעשה להזיז את הזרוע שעליה צעדו האסטרונאוטים לכיוון המשגר, והזיזו אותה מהמשגר עצמו, התחילו לטעון את הדלת והצליחו לחמש, ככה קוראים לזה, את מערכת המילוט. כמובן שהשתמשו במערכת המילוט אך ורק במקרה של תקלה. מה אנחנו הולכים לראות כאן? חשוב לומר שכל שלב בשיגור הזה הוא מתוכנן ומתוזמן. כשהשעון עצר יראה 3 שניות, אז למעשה יחלו 9 המנועים, מנועים מסוג מרלין של חברת SpaceX, לבעור, וכשהשעון יגיע ל0, המשגר בגובה של בערך 72 מטר יתחיל לעלות באוויר. בשלב הזה אתם תראו את האנשים שמאחוריי בחדר בקרה וגם אותי מחזיקים אצבעות, ואנחנו נחכה למקס קיו. מקס קיו היא נקודה לאורך השיגור שבה מופעל הכי הרבה לחץ מכני על המשגר, וזה אמור לקרות פחות או יותר 1:20 אחרי. 2.5 דקות אחרי, כשהצוות נמצא פחות או יותר בגובה של 70 קילומטר, השלב הראשון של המשגר עצמו בנוי משני שלבים. השלב הראשון יתנתק מהשלב השני, והמנוע של השלב השני יתחיל לבעור ולהניע את החללית שעליה נמצא צוות AX1, ביניהם גם איתן סטיבה הישראלי, לתחנת החלל הבינלאומית. 3.5 דקות בערך אחרי, אנחנו נעבור את גובה 100 קילומטר, ואתם תשמעו אותי אומר, רבותיי, יש ישראלי שני בחלל. 9.5 דקות אחרי השיגור, אתם תראו את השלב הראשון שהתנתק במערכה הראשונה נוחת חזרה על הקרקע. ב-12 דקות אחרי השיגור, החללית עצמה תתנתק מהמשגר ותרחף לבדה, היא אמורה להיות כבר במסלול לכיוון תחנת החלל הבינלאומית. בשלב הזה אנחנו נראה את החללית עצמה נפתח לה האף, מה שמכונה ה-nose cone, וזה השלב שבו בודקים ומפעילים את כל מערכות התקשורת שוב פעם ואת מערכות המיקום שלה, ונדע שהשיגור שלנו הוא מוצלח. לשאלתכם, איתן אמור לעשות מסע של סדר גודל של 16 שעות לתחנת החלל הבינלאומית, אמור להגון מחר בשעות הצהריים, אחר הצהריים. אחרי ההגינה ייקח פחות או יותר 2 שעות להשוות לחצים בין החללית לבין תחנת החלל הבינלאומית, ומחר בערך בשעה 4:15, אם לא יהיו תקלות, הוא ייכנס במנהרה לכיוון תחנת החלל הבינלאומית, שם הוא יפגוש 7 אסטרונאוטים שמחכים לו שם, והם יעשו איזשהו טקס, שגם אותו נעביר בשידור חי. וזה דבר שהוא מאוד מאוד מרגש, ויש בו הרבה מאוד היסטוריה, אם יורשה לי לומר. אז מה אנחנו רואים עכשיו? אז מה שאנחנו רואים כרגע זה למעשה איזשהו קלוז-אפ על חללית הדרגון. החללית הזאת היא חללית שעיצבה חברת SpaceX, היא יכולה לשאת גם מטען וגם בני אדם. אמרנו שלפני 45 דקות אישרו למעשה בצורה סופית את השיגור, אחרי שבדקו בדיקות במשגר, בחללית, במזג האוויר, ואנחנו כעיקרון מוכנים.
כמה ימים לפני שאנחנו מציינים את המסע הגדול שלנו לחירות. And a few minutes before launching on this journey, I wish to share with you the words of the Greek poet Constantine Cavafy that well describe the perspective of our marvelous crew. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you are destined for, but do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years. So you are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you this marvelous journey. בהצלחה X1, בהצלחה רקיע.
מה שהיה עכשיו לא היה צפוי, ידענו שאיתן מתכנן לדבר בעברית. למעשה הם עושים בדיקות קשר אחרונות לפני הטיסה. איתן דיבר בעבריק וציטט ציטוט על איתקה, והחל בהצלחה X1, בהצלחה רקיע. פעם ראשונה ששומעים עברית במערכות האלה, וזה דבר מאוד מרגש. כרגע עושים בדיקות אחרונות. עוד פעם, על החללית, על המשגר. המשגר עצמו מתמלא בדלק. תחשבו שבעצם הם נמצאים על כמה טנקי דלק בגובה של 70 מטר, אז משתדלים למלא את הדלק לקראת הסוף. חובקות אותו עדיין טבעות שמחזיקות אותו, שהשתחררו קצת לפני השיגור. כל המשגר הזה הוא בעצם, כמו שאמרנו, מלא בדלק, זה סוג של פצצה מאוד מאוד גדולה שהם מפוצצים אותה באופן מבוקר. ולמעשה במרחק של יותר מ2.5 קילומטר מוגדר הדיינג'ר זון, 2.66, האזור שבו אסור לבני אדם להיות. חדרי הבקרה עצמם, שבהם אתם רואים את הצוות של SpaceX, המרפסת של נאסא שמשקיפה על זה, וגם המשפחות נמצאות 5 קילומטר, במרחק של 5 קילומטר, והם צופים את השיגור. הצוות עצמו קם היום בשעה 2 בבוקר, 2:45, אכל ארוחת בוקר, נסע לבניין ניל ארמסטרונג בקייפ קנברל, התלבש בחליפות שאתם רואים עכשיו, ועשו עליהם בדיקות לקראת היציאה שלהם למשגר. החליפות שאתם רואים הן חליפות כשאני אומר לכם חליפות, אז בוודאי אתם חושבים על בגדים, אבל הם למעשה המשך ישיר של החללית. תכננו אותם במקביל לתכנון של החללית, והם חלק אינטגרלי מהחללית. כמו שהם קונים מחשב, אז המסך הוא חלק אינטגרלי מהמחשב מן הסתם. הם חליפות שיש בהן מערכות לעברור, ללחץ, במידה ויורד הלחץ בחללית, הם מגנות על האסטרונאוטים, ומערכות לתקשורת. החליפות האלה אמורות להציל את הצוות ולשמור עליו במידה ויש ירידה בדרך לתחנת החלל וחזרה לתחנת החלל. מבחינת סיכון זה האזורים שבהם אנחנו קצת יותר מודאגים. אז הנה המשגר. המשגר עצמו נמצא במקום היסטורי, פוד 39A. איתן משוגר לחלל מאותו מקום שבו שוגרו בני אדם לירח בתוכנית אפולו. מהמשגר הזה, בדיוק בנקודה הזאת, שוגר גם אילן רמון, כל המעבורות שוגרו מהפוד הזה, מ-39A. ולמעשה, כרגע אתם ממש יכולים לראות לפי העשן שיוצא מהמשגר, איפה נמצא התדלוק. העשן הזה זה לא כי משהו נשרף, אלא כי משחררים לחצים. לחובבי הז'אנר, למעשה ממלאים את המשגר בדלק נוזלי, לא כמו המשגרים הישראלים שבנויים על דלק מוצק, בדלק נוזלי, שחלקו הוא חמצן, מה שנקרא לוקס, ליקוויד אוקסיג'ן, ועוד דלק של קרסין. ולמעשה הם נכנסים במצב קפוא ומשחררים לחצים, ובגלל זה אתם רואים את העשן הזה, אין כמובן מה לדאוג. רגע לפני השיגור אתם תראו שהעשן הזה פתאום ייעלם. מה ששמענו עכשיו זה קריאה 5 דקות לפני, שהדרגון מוכן לטרמינל קאונט, שלמעשה הם מוכנים והם הולכים אוטוטו להסיר את החובקים ולסיים את התדלוק.
Heard the call out, repressurizing the tanks for strongback retract. We'll hear a sequence momentarily. Strongback is retracting. Actually, that's the start of about a 1-minute sequence. In about T-4 minutes, the clamp arms that you can see there will open, and then
יפה. מה שהודיע ג'ון אינסבורג מהמרכז בהוטו, הגבירו את הסאונד שלו, זה שאנחנו נמצאים בשלב הסופי, מתחילים עכשיו איזשהו סיקוונס, איזושהי רצף פעילויות של משהו כמו דקה, שבמסגרתו הם מתחילים לסיים את התדלוק. שתי דקות לפני השיגור אתם תראו את החובק הקטן שנמצא מעל הפס השחור של הדרגון יורד, ואנחנו נדע די בוודאות שאנחנו נמצאים בשיגור עצמו. הדרגון עצמו הוא חללית יחסית חדשה. החללית הזאת ספציפית טסו בה רק 3 פעמים עד היום. הצוות של דמו 2 שעשה את הניסוי הראשון, וצוות של שוגר וחזר מתחנת החלל הבינלאומית באזור חודש אוקטובר. במקרה שאתם תוהים על הגבהים, הוא מחולק לשני חלקים. החלק הוא בערך בגובה של 8 מטר, 4 מטר קוטר. החלק התחתון יש בו את כל מערכות ההנעה, הוא לא מדוחס, זה אומר שאין בו אוויר. ויש בו מנועים שמנווטים, והחלק העליון הוא חלק שבו האסטרונאוטים נמצאים. לחללית עצמה נכנסים 7 אסטרונאוטים. כמו שאתם אמורים לדעת כמה יש בצוות, יש 4 אסטרונאוטים. זה אומר שנשאר לנו עוד מקום כדי להכניס עוד ציוד לתוך תחנת החלל. הציוד האחרון שעלה לדרגון עלה לפני 4 שעות לפני השיגור. המעבדה האחרונה היא מעבדה ישראלית במסגרת משימת רקיע, עם 2 ניסויים שיש בהם חומרים שצריכים להחזיק אותם בקירור. ניסוי אחד של חברת א' פארם שמגדלת בשר מתורבת, רוצים לגדל בשר בחלל, והניסוי השני הוא ניסוי של חברת המורפיקל, שיש לה תרופה לבריחת סיגל. מסכים אתם יכולים לראות את חדרי הבקרה בספייסיקס ובאקסיום, כמו החדרי בקרה שלנו. ואנחנו מחכים למעשה לסיום של הטעינה של הדלק. הצוות נמצא בחללי כבר בערך 2.5 שעות. הם נכנסו, חיברו את החלליות, את החליפות. הודיעו שסיימו למעשה לתדלק את השלב הראשון, ועכשיו נשאר רק לתדלק את השלב השני, שהוא השלב שיותר קרוב לחללית. הדרגון מלא, המשגר, הפלקון מלא בדלק. לפני 3 דקות העבירו את החללית לשליטה עצמאית. מסיימים לדחס את הגז, את הדלק. הצוות יושב, הוא נמצא למעשה במצב שכיבה כבר 45 דקות. ואנחנו נמצאים דקה לפני השיגור. אם תשימו לב, החובק של המשגר כבר ירד.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
דרגון ספייסיס גו פור לאנץ'. עברנו למצב אוטונומי לחלוטין, אין למעשה יכולת להזיז יותר דברים, רק לייצר רבורט בשניות האחרונות. עוד 30 שניות. שניות. אפשר להתכונן עם הדגלים. 10, 9,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Stop. Go Falcon, go Dragon.
ויש לנו שיגור! שיגור נראה מעולה, אפשר לראות טלמטריה, אפשר לראות מה הגובה שלנו ומה המהירות. הנקודה הבאה שאנחנו מחכים לה היא נקודה שנקראת מקס קיו בערך בדקה ו-20. בנקודה הזאת יש את הלחץ המכני הכי גבוה על המשגר ועל החללית. רגע לפני שמגיעים לנקודה הזאת, רגע לפני שמורידים את הנקודה הזאת, אז אנחנו מגיעים לנקודה הזאת, מאיטים קצת את המנועים.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Throttling down in the preparation for max dynamic pressure.
מחכים ל-Max Q, ל-Max Dynamic Pressure. עברו למהירות האלכוהולית. Max Q.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Merlin 1D engines coming back up to power.
1 Bravo. Copy, 1 Bravo.
The crew calling out 1 Bravo should an escape situation arise. It tells the Dragon flight computer what profile to fly using the Super Draco engines. But everything is looking good on Falcon 9. We're getting nominal callouts from all the engineers and a great view from the ground camera and the onboard cameras.
Invac chill underway.
Beginning to chill in the second stage turbo pump in preparation for its ignition coming up in just over half a minute from now. Coming up on about 3.5 G's acceleration for the crew. We'll begin throttling down the Merlin engines to hold that level of acceleration. Next event coming up, we're going to get main engine cutoff of the 9 engines. Get stage separation and ignition of the second stage engine.